ready to roll, ladies? Oh, we got tick. And we're gonna stay on focus, so y'all do your best to keep my mouth shut, would you?
Whoa, easy now.
I'm just asking.
Nobody wants to get ugly.
Just steadily take your lead.
Yeah, this.
Like this.
You did it.
No, text me the link.
The Jedi mind you. Stop speaking.
Oh, we're gonna wait on AJ to give us a.
Do you want to wait or are we ready to start?
No, let's go ahead and get AJ on the deal. We can do the pledge and everything. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Strategic Planning Workshop. Today is January the 28th, the first of several days, 9 o'clock in the morning. And if you will, stand for a moment of silence again, and we'll do the pledge. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you very much. And I've often wondered when I say, we have a moment of silence, just what Susan thinks about. I think she thinks the temperature in here is pretty good. Is that what, am I right?
It's not bad.
It's okay, but
I've
that's
got my
what you're thinking
blanket
about.
on.
Okay. So, anyway.
Dear Lord, please get me through this freezing session.
So, here shortly, when we get the executive director of the New Mexico Municipal League, AJ Forty, coming on, and he'll give us just a little breakdown of legislative session thus far, which is just getting started. Overview of the process. You want to go ahead, Zach, and start the review, and we'll pick up with AJ when he comes on?
Maybe you want me to go over how our government is set up?
Yeah, if you, just under the review of the form of government, just on it to remind us how our government is set up and obligations.
So we are a municipality in the state of New Mexico, as you guys know. And a municipality is set up by state statute, and we are referred to as a political subdivision of the state, which basically means that the state legislature said in its laws that municipalities are allowed, that the state government is allowing municipalities to exist. And it describes how you set it up and how you run it. How you run a municipality can be done in different ways. You can have a home rule home rule city, which has a lot more autonomy from the state government, from the legislature. They can do a lot, they have a lot more power, individual power to do certain things that do not require oversight from the state. Then the alternative, which most cities are, is a mayor-council form of government, which is what we are, which is made up of a mayor and a governing body like you guys. And you guys are, as a non-home rule state, you have certain authority.
Recording in progress.
To do certain things, but there's a lot more oversight from the legislature and the executive branch and all the different agencies under the executive or in the executive branch. So that's what we are. Another more examples of subdivision.
Recording stopped.
Good God.
Sorry, it's that AI thing that keeps trying to join.
Other political subdivisions of the state include counties, school boards, special districts, things like that. And in my experience, being a municipal lawyer now for 21 years, sometimes people or boards get elected and don't really understand the concept of being a political subdivision of the state. They, in their mind, they're an island on their own, and they don't. You guys are have a lot of experience in your positions and understand it a lot more than, particularly in the smaller towns when people get elected and they don't get it, that they are part of a bigger picture. I appreciate that you guys do understand that and that you do know that you're answerable to DFA, the governor's office, the legislature, a million different agencies, state and federal, that you are a subdivision of something greater than that. So Ron and I were talking, he just wanted me to give you all a recap of that. And I wanted to tell you that I appreciate the fact that you guys do understand what your role is and what the limits to your authority, and you ask good questions about it, and you dig in and don't just presume that you can do whatever you want. So that's my recap of mayor, council, form of government.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, but Mr. Mayor, if I may just kind of coattail of that, last night in your State of the Village, where you addressed the governor and her assistance to us in the village, I think that's appropriate in the sense of so many times people won't cross the aisle, they won't go to the other side because that person or that entity is not aligned with the way I normally do it. But if that person is taking care of business and doing the right thing, then it should be said. And to say, oh, I don't want to say you're in bed with the governor because that'd be a bad statement.
Yeah, we want
But the point of that is, I think that's appropriate, and everybody needs to know that no matter who's in the position, it's the position and if they're helping you out. So,
That's correct.
Very good.
2 cents.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Zach. And I see Mr. Forty's available now.
He is, Mayor and Council, we do have AJ, and he's going to give us a legislative update. Thank you, AJ.
Morning, AJ.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, Council.
Morning.
Ron. And Mayor, if you're ready, I'll get started.
We're ready for you.
All right. Well, Mayor, Council, I think I'll start with where y'all just left off. We at the league, right? We're non-political. We're nonpartisan. And the last special session, right? The only winner of that special session was Ruidoso, right? That $74 million bill that made its way through special session. That's the only thing that came out of special. And Mayor Crawford was in this conference room going back and forth when he needed to tell the story. So yeah, from our perspective, it's not an RRD issue, right? This is most of what we do is policy or funding. And that's what we're focused on this session. And I keep saying this session for us is back to the basics. What y'all were talking about, right? Yeah, we need an update to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, the local government code has not been updated 1978. So we've had Allison and Rebecca working with our clerks, working with our managers to understand what questions do you get every day? What can we clean up in the municipal code to make your lives easier? And what did we learn from the Ruidoso fire? We learned that we, local governments, cities, need the ability to cross-commission officers. I don't want to get the mayor started, but sometimes we don't get along with the sheriff. Yeah. Sometimes our sheriffs won't cross-commission when we need the help. So we want the ability to do it ourselves. So what we've put in the Chapter 3 update is local governments, cities specifically, will be able to cross-commission officers when you need help. So you as a governing body can say, we will cross-commission these 13 officers from around the state till the next governing body. So you accept that liability, but you get the help. And since we, the fund, insure 95 cities, from an insurance perspective, everybody's covered. But we need that commissioning process done by you all and not being reliant on the sheriff. So as we live and learn, this is something that probably is most important in that Chapter 3 update, that you all have the power to do that and that we aren't reliant solely on the sheriffs. Mayor, any questions on that piece?
No, I don't have any questions on that one.
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
So AJ, Darren Hooker, good morning. Having
Yes, sir.
been on that other side, if you will, I know that they have an entity, the Association of Counties, just like we have the Municipal League. Do you have communication with their director as far as, are they being told, they being the sheriffs, that, hey, don't do this because of liability? Or is it just individual sheriffs saying, I'm not going to touch it, I don't want to give them a commission? What is that?
Yeah. Pretty much you summed it up on the point number 2. we don't want to have either issue. And what we see is in doing this, you're right, they do have an association, they have a pool. This actually lowers their liability because us doing it ourselves, we take on that risk, that liability. So this is a better deal for them and it gives us more local control. And I just don't want to end up in a situation where we have a disaster, an emergency, and a community needs help. We have officers from the Police Chiefs Association, other chiefs ready to donate officers for a period of time, but not have the ability to cross commission. I don't want to run into that again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, did Cage ever come around, you know, because he had some questions and I know that we'd sent him some information.
Mayor, I'm not sure we'll ever get them on board when they feel like we're diluting their authority.
Right.
Right. And that's not the case. We don't see it that way. We're lowering their liability. I'm not sure it's going to be an issue from the Sheriff's Association. Cage did fall off their executive committee.
Right.
So I'm not sure that that voice is prevalent today.
Okay, yeah, he got a big fat raise. Did you see that? Substantial, 70% more than his predecessor, or something like that.
Where is this from?
Eddie,
Carlsbad,
Carl-
Eddie County.
Eddie County. I don't know why I went blanked it. All right. Is any other questions from AJ? Could we keep an eye on legislation that has to do with thinning?
Yes.
You know, that's a big concern here, and we've got several economic drivers and opportunities that we're looking at that surround green waste, and then it would really help if it goes into the state. And I know we're trying to work federally on those plans too for defensible space. And are we keeping an eye on any insurance discussions? You know, I was getting updates on the FAIR Act plan where we were having discussions because so many communities around the state are not able to afford insurance. Have you seen the latest on that yet? Is it still at like 1.2 million or 1.5 million is what I was hearing the proposed was?
Yeah, Mayor, I've not seen that bill yet. We're tracking that one. We're obviously tracking Senator Wood's bill, right, for the thinning component. You know, the way it's structured right now, there'll be 12 million in there for grants for communities to do thinning. We want the one where we can actually go into state land and do the thinning for the buffer zones. We're tracking those. We're supporting it. Most of what we're seeing come out right now, the early bills that are getting hearings, nothing's bad. We have a few water bills that we're concerned about. We'll make sure that's in the legislative briefing that goes out every Friday. We are getting some more information on our bills, right? So obviously Chapter 3 is moving. The IPRA update, we sent that IPRA evaluation out yesterday that we did over the last year. That bill's going to drop probably early next week. Our water bill, that's probably the most important one, right? Water Trust Board, what I'm telling every community right now, please apply to Water Trust Board. Right? We're getting almost 165 million to the Water Trust Board this year. So if you have applied, you're going to get something. In future years, right? We're hopefully going to get it front loaded with a little more money, right? Chairman Munoz dropped a $222 million bill into the Water Trust Fund. That helps fully fund the projects that you all have applied for. That's probably my priority number one right now, because the water needs that we have, that's even $250 million is a drop in the bucket for what we need. But we'll make sure that's number one on our list in the legislative briefing.
Okay, anything else? We had a question brought up today. We were making some budget adjustments in the previous meeting. The question was, President Trump signed in the hold on all grants and things of that federally. Do you see that? Have y'all had any discussion on that yet? How it might affect funds coming into the state, or especially on the catastrophe areas? Have you been involved in any of those?
Mayor, all of those questions are unknown at this point, how they're going to flow down. The grants that were frozen yesterday wouldn't be relative to us, but we don't know what's going to come later. We don't know.
Okay, but the
We're
ones that
tracking
were
it. We just don't have answers.
okay, but the ones that were already approved and all that, you feel like those will still move forward or not? It's still unknown.
Most of those where there was a contract signed pre-January 20th, yeah, we do feel that those are good to go. And that's why they were pushing, the previous administration was pushing so hard to get contracts, so the money couldn't be clawed back.
Okay.
But as far as any action taken the 20th forward, we're in an unknown on that one. We're tracking it. We just don't have answers because it's moving so quickly.
Okay. What about the Sick Leave Act? I heard it got some traction.
Mayor, I think they have the votes, right?
yeah.
I think what we saw from the elections, right? They picked up more seats in the House. That was what killed it last year. I think they have the votes to move it.
And so would
as
you
we
just
brought-
refresh us what that says?
So there's going to be a statewide pool. There's going to be employer and employee contributions. So every employer over 5 FTE, over 5 employees, will have to contribute. The math doesn't look bad today. Where we are concerned are the out years, right? So this is the Secretary of Workforce Solutions administers this program. So say at year 5, you run into a deficit. This is then an administrative increase that's to go into effect to make the fund solvent. That's where we worry, right? Where was the actuarial study, were the assumptions correct? And we won't know, unfortunately, till it happens. When we brought this forward and had this discussion internally, some of our cities have a sick leave plan that's greater than what this state pool will offer, right? So it actually saves them money. Most of our municipalities have a leave program in excess of what this program does.
Well, and
So
at
from
12 weeks?
Yes.
But isn't that FMLA? I mean, how is that going to work, AJ, to where we all give FMLA the 12 weeks, you don't get paid for it? You use your vacation or your sick time and then not get paid. So is that when the state would step in and say, or the person would apply for that, and then they would through the employer and employee, they would get paid for the rest of the 12 weeks?
Well, and Counselor, that's why we're not as affected as much as private employers. Private employers who don't have sick and annual leave, right? That's where it's different for us because we have sick, we have annual. Not all of our communities are FMLA covered, right? Our real small ones that have 50 or less employees are not required to offer FMLA.
Okay.
So that's not necessary, right? We don't have to hold those positions. So it's really different for every community based on the personnel policy and whether they've opted into FMLA or not. So we are different, and we are working with the sponsor. There is some preemption language within the bill that we've highlighted to say, if we have a plan that is greater than, we don't want to have to participate. That's what we have asked at this point, so that we don't have to figure out how do we use the state pool when we've already funded our sick and annual programs.
Okay.
Okay. And has there been any discussion on the no tax on tips thing? I know that we have, with being a hospitality community, I get calls on that all the time. Some people think it's going to change their life. And, when you're talking about 25, 30% on some of these, I agree it. And I think there'll be more accounting on it because a lot of people hide it as best they can. But is there any discussion on that, how that would affect the state?
Mayor, that'll come off of income tax. So if Congress actually passes that, obviously, that's a process, and we'll have to track that as they put it in a bill. But it's an income issue, so it actually won't hurt local governments because that's on income.
Okay.
That won't affect our revenue streams.
Anybody else? No. Well, thanks, AJ. Hopefully you have a productive day, and I hear the roundhouse flu's in full bloom. Is that right?
Yeah, we're all fighting it.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck. How's the new baby?
She's absolutely beautiful. She's sleeping to about 2:00, so I take every hour I can get.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for showing up, and we appreciate all the hard work you're doing. Thanks, AJ.
Thanks,
Yes, sir.
AJ.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, AJ.
Thank you, Council.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's got a new baby girl.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, if we can go over our mission statement and purpose, Jenny?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So I'm going to read the mission statement for the Village of Ruidoso, and then each department head will read their purpose statement before they present their plans. The Village of Ruidoso is dedicated and committed to providing friendly, innovative, and quality government services which will promote a healthy and safe environment while enhancing opportunities for all citizens and visitors who live, work, and play in nature's playground.
Okay, thank you very much.
Amen.
Anybody need any explanation?
Because we updated that within the past 5-6 years,
Yeah.
maybe?
In the last couple, say 3 years, that we went over it and made some edits to it.
And Miss Cheryl, Mama Cheryl, she's going to give us a review of our organizational chart.
And I'm sure that Cheryl was listening on the one for the sick leave.
Mm-hmm.
I had to hit that
I still don't understand if we
Well,
provide
it's more for
FMLA.
private business
Okay.
that don't have it.
Okay,
I mean, whichever's greater, the village will have to probably participate in, but all this is every business that has more than 5 full-time employees. And so you pay a certain percentage like you do workman's comp or whatever into a fund. And then the question is, like you remember COVID, as soon as they announced the 2 weeks paid, whatever, we had everybody took 2 weeks off, remember? And then they got COVID. So people used it as vacation pay and it backfired. So what are the preemptions that he's talking about is to make sure of verification? Because right now, if you don't feel good, we don't want you coming in,
yeah.
you know? And I do that in my own business. I've been sick enough and we just say, stay away. And we work out financial arrangements, but a lot of businesses can't do that. And so that's the big concern from employers is how do we afford? And then if you're gone for 12 weeks, what do I do? How do I replace you if I got 6 employees? So people in the soap business are just asking questions like that.
We want to know.
We want to know. So thank you, Cheryl.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go over the organizational charts for for all of the departments, and I'll just run through in the order they are in your binder. I think they handed out a few edited copies to you as well. So for the clerk's office, they are fully staffed. Sorry.
Yay.
Yeah. For the HR department, we are fully staffed. Finance has 2 vacancies. They have a capital projects manager and an assistant finance director vacancy. Community development is.
Wait just a minute. So who is doing the projects now? I mean, how does that, if we don't have a manager, how does that steamroll right on in there?
She'll tell you, Levi, and go ahead.
Councilor Lutterman, Mayor. So currently, right now, Bianca, that we hired, the capital project
Yes.
specialist, she tracks all the expenditures and invoices, and then Levi manages the projects going. So we're going to start getting Levi a little bit more involved on the budget side so that he can know what's going on. And then, of course, all the grant work I do, so the oversight comes to me. And so one of the goals for the 6 months for Bianca would be for me to show her where I have all my grant files, how to access them, how to keep them, getting the reimbursements going and stuff like
Sure.
that. So.
And so that's really what the project manager does.
So the capital projects manager that's vacant right now would oversee that department. It would oversee procurement. And as far as all the projects that are in the village and grants, and anything any outlay that people might have questions on how to do stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving right along, community development, they are also fully staffed. Parks and Rec, we currently have one vacancy. We had, I believe your chart's going to show 4, but we had 3 new hires come on, and we have 1 person in the hiring process, and he will be fully staffed, hopefully by the end of this week. The community center, of course, they're fully staffed. The convention center is also fully staffed, as well as the library.
Which is
The library?
2,
No, sir, they
1.5.
have,
In the library?
in the library.
Oh,
they
in the
have-
library, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I don't know, I was thinking of the
Yeah.
Wingfield House.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sorry.
The fire department is fully staffed. And police department, we do have several vacancies here. We have 2 in dispatch that we're trying to fill. We have our deputy chief that we're not recruiting for at this time. Eventually, we will, we're budgeted for it. As well as a admin lieutenant vacancy. We have 1 corporal vacancy, 5 patrol officers, and as of late last week, they have 3 non-certified officers in the background process. And then animal control, we have 2 vacancies.
Yeah.
We're down to the manager and 1 ACO.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And if this isn't for this meeting, well, then just tell me to button it up. But, so help me understand, so we have a project manager and we have a water resource director. So, you know, if we're training the people under them, does it take some big, education as far as a master's or whatever to be in these positions? What I'm getting at is we have our people doing the work, so why can't we hire with them and put them in those positions?
Too much work. There's a difference. You're looking at purchase orders, you're looking at all stuff on the project management, budgeting, then you have in the field inspecting. So Levi is doing a lot of the inspecting, but now then we're bringing him up because he has the capacity with what he's done and he's learned that portion, that we're moving him, or giving him the opportunity to move into it, and then Bianca handles a lot of the other processes.
But are they, if we hire a person, are those people the ones that are going to be training our project manager or our water resource?
We wouldn't hire a person that doesn't know their job. And like the resource management specialist, with what Ashley's doing, she has a lot of field work, but that position also works over the water treatment systems.
Okay.
And all that, so it has to have a lot of management, not, I think I can do it. We've
Yeah,
got that. It needs somebody that has some management experience. And so Ashley, with all the other stuff she's doing, is really conquered, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that she's taken on already. And that she's moving
Okay,
to those positions, but we haven't been able to find that person that we're looking for just yet, but it looks like she may be growing. You don't want to, you know, and everybody's been in management before, you've promoted people that just really did great here, and then you promote them, you put too much
no,
on them.
that's
and you-
right.
And so we don't want to run, you know, I've seen it in horses and other people too, you just push them too hard, you know, and then there ain't worth a darn afterwards. And so we want to make sure that we
Okay.
support them all the way through. And that's the whole point, because I think Ashley's awesome, and I really think Levi is doing a great, Bianca's doing a great, everybody is doing a great job at the capacity, but we still need that person, and if they are one of those, that would be who it would be, and then we would fill in.
Okay.
But really, we haven't got the applications.
Mayor Crawford, Counselor Lutterman, and I know Judy and her staff, she's trying to do cross-training with a lot of them also, because you lose one key position there, like we have, and then you have to bring somebody in and retrain them. So trying to have different employees, staff members be able to handle, say, on the procurement side, the project management side, so there's a lot of pieces to that also.
Okay,
I mean, so much to it, just what the ladies over there do, keeping track of those and then going out for RFP and the bidding and then opening the bidding and then do they qualify?
yes,
On and on and on. And then that's what, by the time it gets to us, it's been through all the,
right,
so
okay.
there's a lot to it. But
Thank
we
you.
have really awesome people and I mean, they've
Oh, I
really
agree.
started stepping up and like I said, Levi still has a lot of capacity and he's looking forward to it.
Yeah,
So from what I'm told.
okay, thank you.
Any questions on the police department org chart?
I've got some general questions, Cheryl, but I'll hold them till you're done.
Water distribution, we have 3 vacancies, a heavy equipment operator and 2 maintenance technicians. For the street department, we have 3 vacancies, which are all maintenance tech positions, and we do have 1 in the hiring process for them currently. Solid Waste has 2 vacancies. He has a operator-driver position and a bear mess position. The airport, we have 1 line tech position vacant. So we just started advertising that one late last week. And then forestry is fully staffed. Under the water resource director org chart, this is going to include the treatment plant and water production. For the treatment plant, he has 1 vacancy for an operator/lab tech. And then Randy is fully staffed in water production.
So Randy is?
Randy?
So do we know what levels we have there? How many 4s and 3s?
I believe we have 2 4s. No, I believe we have 3 4s. That would be Dave, Isaac, and Cash, I believe. Cash is a 3. A 3? Okay.
We can find that out. And then Randy's a 4, and I believe Terry,
Terry's a 4.
and,
And Gabe is a 4.
okay.
Gabe is? Okay. Do you know if we have any other, so that would leave 1? I just want to make sure that we still have the guys, if they have the time available from work, the incentive to get their 3s and 4s.
If they have the time to
Yes.
study. Is that what you're asking, Mayor? They are working with them. Isaac does work with them, and I think Terry and Randy do as well.
Okay. And the same thing at the plant.
I do know that we've had many discussions with water distribution. They do struggle a little bit more because they
They're
are
always
called
busy.
out. They are called out throughout the night, and, but we just have to make time to have them get that studying done and training so we
Yeah.
can move these people up.
What about retirement? How many people do we have that are very close to retirement?
The last count I had was 15, and then we lost the 2 chiefs to retirement. I believe we're around 13 that can retire within the next 4 years, or are eligible now or within the next 4 years.
I would argue, and I was reminded last night when the mayor spoke of the capabilities of our team, I would argue probably one of our greatest threats is management succession.
Exactly.
I know everyone's been sensitive to it, but, I look around and, a lot of you are 2 years away from retiring, and what do we do then? So,
Blackmail.
They can't go hobbling them.
It is very concerning and, those are things that we recruit and honestly, and I said it last night, when I talked to other mayors, they think we're in primo shape. And compared to them, we are. And we just want to make sure that we have incentives, we have these things, and we're looking at other incentives for employees, but you know, and we've got several that are in key spots that, you know, it's nerve-wracking right now. So,
Mayor and council, and I'll get into it during my presentation, but as one of my tactical goals is to kind of assess the structure of departments. I think we have a lot of employees that are operational.
yeah.
We don't have those middle managers everywhere that are training to do both, the administrative side and the operational side. So that's where we have a need to address that. So we can talk about that a little bit.
And, you know, and we refer back to Eric Boyda. Everybody remembers Eric Boyda, that I didn't understand him a lick for the first 6, 7 months. I mean, and then once you got to know him and understand him, then the respect comes and whatever. But I never forget the last day he left, you know, I said, man, we're sure gonna miss you. And he said, no, when you're in public service, 2 weeks later, they already forget about you. That is not true.
No.
And
Nor have we forgotten about them.
no, and it's just like the people that we have in different positions, you know, we still have a good relationship with these folks that we can call and ask and even though they're retired, they still help recruit for the village. And, you know, it's things like that that we have to continue to make sure that it's not just putting out ads for help, it's the community and the people pushing that this is a good, fun, hopefully, place to work.
Well, and not burning a bridge is critical.
Well, and along with that, Eric took the time to help Ashley and his department along. And so that's really what I was getting at is, you know, you have to find those people that are willing to be in the management. And, you know, because a lot of people, they want to go so far, but they don't want the responsibility of having an Atom phone 24 hours a day.
True.
And so that's where I get very anxious, is that it takes a different kind of a person to want those management positions.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we can lose sight of the fact that when you have a particular work group and you have those that are well established in their skill sets, they may not want to take on the other side of that, which is the personnel issues. And those are kind of a very different lifestyle
Yeah.
for many. They were for me, certainly. So you've got that as well. Even though they
Exactly.
may be there and understand it, they didn't necessarily want to take it on.
Yeah.
Great point. Okay, thank you. I don't know that we helped anything with all those questions, but
And then we have the one water resource director that we talked about, vacancy. So currently, Mayor and Council, we have 219 FTEs. Lost my paperclip. And 13 seasonal temps on board right now for the ice rink. So that's where our employee count is.
So Cheryl, as it relates to the open positions, I'm curious about two things. First of all, I presume we conduct exit interviews when people leave. Are those giving us a sense of what the priorities are as far as retaining people?
Mayor, Counselor, yes, I do conduct exit interviews when I'm able to. Sometimes I'm not able to get the person in here, but I do, normally I do exit interviews. A lot of times people are just leaving for other opportunities, another job that may pay more but doesn't have the benefits that we do. Relocation. And as another tactical plan of mine is to start tracking that better, retention and turnover, and try to find solutions to, you know, if someone's not happy in their position, maybe they applied for the wrong job, maybe they'll be happier in Parks and Rec versus the street department, whatever the case, maybe looking at possibly transferring, if we can save somebody,
So Cheryl, procedurally, do you report the results of the exit interview to Ron?
Mayor, Counselor, I do have some discussions with Ron, and I typically talk to the directors as well, so that we can,
Because my experience has been, I've had managers that can't manage.
Yeah.
And it comes out in the exit interviews, but those were going to the managers, the direct reports, so
It didn't help.
I never heard about it, didn't realize till I started seeing, well, we're having a huge amount of turnover in this department. So I'd encourage you guys to communicate with each other. And then the second part of my question, as it relates to job openings, how do we assess the job market as far as compensation?
so funny you bring that up, because that's another one of my tactical goals. The personnel policy states that every 5 years, the village manager and HR manager will assess the pay bands, typically through a pay study,
Right.
which we are due for one. The last one was done in early 2020. So we are due for one.
Okay.
However, you can finish that off, because we have,
However, we have done some internal adjustments, looking at some of the local areas here that were paying more than we were at our lowest entry-level position. We did some internal adjustments in April of '23.
Well, and without getting into specifics, because I know we'll do it department by department, a takeaway from the job openings, it appears we have a couple of departments that have several openings. So that would beg the question, are we remaining competitive in those respective fields?
Correct. And Mayor and Council, and that's another concern of mine, is that because we have so many operational employees, we don't have, and this isn't the case in every department, it just needs to be looked at. We don't have those stepping stone positions for them to grow into. So there may be, just, I'm making this up, of 5 employees and a manager. And the employees know that that manager's not retiring for 10 years, so they know there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go right now. And so if they're offered another opportunity for a better position, then they're probably going to take it.
Yeah.
So,
in some departments, just the job required is more difficult. Call-outs, it's cold, it's hot, that they move out of that job into another one. And so we would like to be able, but because we're restricted on how we can do things, I would like to be able to take those areas that are physically more demanding, cold, wet, called out after hours, that there's ways to incentivize those folks with more money.
Yeah, almost hazard pay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I feel like that somehow, we've talked about it with the league, how do we do that? Because usually if we give a pay band increase there, everybody has to do it, and then it puts us out of the market, or out of affordability.
But aren't we very close to the tipping point of?
We have been, yes, and are we still at 70?
Because it's 75% is where you tip over.
That's where we're at. I mean, I thought we were at like 73, and then it dropped down to 69.
What I mean by that is if our payroll
And benefits.
and benefits package is 75% of our budget,
Yep.
then you're tipping over.
Yeah.
You're too top, or I don't want to say top heavy, you're just, it makes it where.
Operationally,
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
not balanced.
So, when we were closed, this past budget year, however, it gets kind of, skewed when we add in all the rollovers and stuff, because then it looks like we're not as bad when you add in those other operational and capital outlay expenditures. But I think it might be a good idea that as a council, you set a standard of where you want to be, so we don't get, like you said, 80% or whatever, a part of the total budget, so.
So that number, is that a rule of thumb?
Yeah.
Or is it
Basically, it's just saying,
At the municipal league, that's where we look in the financial of tipping points where communities become insolvent, because you've seen what's happened in California and some other communities where they're so benefit heavy that they can't even, I mean, what business can have 75% in employee costs and still maintain a profit? And can't. And so that's where we go after grants and all these other things that she's talking about, where they roll in capital outlay. So it's a constant process that the senior administrative level, the directors are constantly working on grants. So that's what makes it looked really bad one budget year. We were at 73 or whatever. And then by the time she came back and did the offsetting numbers and whatever, then we saw that, okay, we're good. And so it's a tricky line.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, you know, the year before last, when we were doing we did some, on the pay band, we did some updates on it, and other entities around here were also doing it, like Alamogordo. They were like, 1 month they were doing it, and then a few months later, so everybody was just, as the mayor can attest to across the state, were kept increasing the wages because they couldn't
anybody.
retain anybody, and the Department of Transportation and other state entities
Police
also.
department, state police officers.
State police, they had these high increases that were recruiting all the different police officers from entities. So it's an ongoing, and it's
You know,
can
some
be
of the
difficult.
surrounding communities, we did the pay study, worked diligently, y'all remember.
Oh, yeah.
And we did the incremental raises for everybody. And then right after we got them done, like a week later, Alamogordo can't find anybody. And it's not just, it was the whole work environment. It's what the people told me. They just said, okay, we're getting everybody across the board, like the county did.
Yeah.
And then they said, we'll just figure it out later. And then those people aren't on the council anymore, and the new people are having to clean up the mess. And it comes to that, and then we had to compete with that. That's why we had to make incremental raises. But, you know, we have to always look at longevity, affordability. Is it, we're going to be here in 25 years? And that's why it's so important that we have to maintain those standards.
Well, and Cheryl, getting back to the compensation studies, you know, I came from a very competitive industry. We did them every year. 5 years is a long time. I think we should be shooting for, you know, maybe every 2 years, because things change.
Sure.
And we'll send out stuff, you know, we use the league a lot to where these positions, what is the competitive salary? What is that? And we'll get those back, and they're all over the place sometimes, and so we always shoot for high or nearly high. And it depends on the position.
And it's not necessarily just pay, it's quality of life,
Yep.
it's working conditions.
Cost of living here.
Opportunities for advancement.
Where we get killed is housing.
Housing.
Housing is a kick.
So, Mayor, because we've been so responsive to the workforce within Ruidoso, we've done a good job of hiring people and keeping them on. Before, we used to have way more vacancies than, would you say 7? Or overall, how many? 24, but, I mean, we used to have like 40. And we've added a number of positions within the last 3 years, plus we've increased field workers, firefighters, dispatch.
Yeah.
So we've touched on almost all job classes except middle management, and it probably,
Well, and that's one of the
Now that
things we've
you're
talked
talking
about,
about-
is training for management, is
Yep.
sending them to classes, people that have them, they want to go into management, offer some classes on training.
Yep.
And, yeah, and so we've talked about that before. Have we done anything on that?
On management training?
Yeah,
We definitely have in the past. We have ENMU Ruidoso who's
Uh-huh.
fixing to do a training in, what are the dates, Ron? March.
coming up. They're in
March,
place.
every Friday in March. We're going to have all the admin staff, management, supervision in those. We have a
And-
customer service
and that's
training coming up. We have
super
different ones.
important, because we have talked to other people in the departments about them moving into it, and there's a lot of hesitation until they get, and I don't see Kate here, but that's a prime example, you know, of what can I expect, what kind of support, and the support comes from upper management and the council so that they understand that it's solid and that it's not a wishy-washy kind of program, like some communities.
We also have an attorney that we work with, a labor attorney, and she also offers in-depth training also, and then with the New Mexico Municipal League, so.
So we're looking at all those, we just need to make sure that we offer it and that people take advantage of it, and that we tell them why and sell them why they should move into that.
And Mayor and Council, we have a lot of options for on-demand, live online training, where they actually have an instructor teaching a live class, but you don't necessarily, you're not in the classroom, you can do it online.
And then we offer little bumps for when they complete and they bring in their certificates and all that. I mean, we've done that, but you have to have that initiative built in, and whatever anxieties are attributed to that move, you know, people don't like to change, but is that we have to make sure they understand what that transition looks like and that there's a way to segue into it for their betterment and ultimately the villages. So they're working on all of that, and it's proof because this is the first time since I've been around, the firefighters are full. And I know there's certain positions that they just don't make very many of them anymore.
Poor Bobby, he gets full and then they
Go somewhere else.
go within the village of Ruidoso. They get hired out. Poor guy.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You enjoying your new location? Do you? I didn't ask Judy if she was enjoying hers. She just said she's not moving anymore.
They took the rollers off her desk.
Tactical plans, review and consideration.
Mayor and council, this is our 2025. We're going to start with our attorney on these tactical plans, and Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Ron, and Mayor and councilors. My tactical plan does not change much from year to year. I am here to support you guys and management and their directors in all things legal. One of the main things that has come up over the last couple of years is the sunshine laws, IPRA and OMA. Those are always continue to be a risk. But between me and Jenny and Ron and the training that the directors have received and the seriousness that they all understand that these risks present, it makes it a lot easier.
Zach, I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry, IMPRA is an acronym for?
The Inspection of Public Records Act.
And I don't know what OMA is.
I don't either.
Open Meetings Act. Those together form what are generally referred to as the sunshine laws, intending to make what the government is doing visible to the governed.
And then that's one of the things that AJ have been working on with Jenny is on more defining the IPRA, because what we see is like over 70+% of IPRAs are from web-based companies that put those in to gather information so that you can, you know, when you want to find out information about Dr. Jackson, you pay $15, that's where they get their information. And it overwhelms a lot of communities, and in fact, a lot like ours at different points have a lot of people working on those. And then I know in bigger cities, they have whole departments that have sprung up just to handle them because the penalties are so stiff if you don't respond in a certain amount of time. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with feds, the FOIAs, because they'll take a year. I mean, that one I put in took almost a year.
IPRA is a very liberal state act, liberal compared to even the other states. FOIA, they can put you off forever. But in New Mexico, our Inspection of Public Records Act is very friendly to the public, and it puts a big strain on the local governments. Like you just mentioned, Albuquerque has its own department with 15 or 20 employees.
Oh, my
just to deal with
Just to deal with it. And for example, they just got a FOIA the other day because of something that happened at the Christian school that people were calling me on to say, what's going on? Have you seen it? And a lot of it was the FEMA and the different people that are in the bottom with they have on some of the tactical gear, and they have people watching just as a security protocol. And just the fact that I mentioned anything, you know, she calls and wants all the IPRAs, wants all my cell phone, all my whatever, and then that puts a burden on everybody to do. And then they'll do blanket IPRAs. You know, on this day to that day, we want all police calls. and we want all cameras, and we want all this and that. And so they've done a lot of that. And so that's what he's talking about is, we're not trying to hide anything, but give us more time, be more specific on your requests, what you're looking for. Because it's pretty hard when you do a shotgun approach and then there's one nugget you're looking for that we miss, then it becomes an issue.
What's your biggest concern going forward
On IPRAs,
in general? I mean, do you see emerging issues that are going to impact?
no, I don't. And in fact, the way we've been affected by IPRA, and I don't mean to just hang on to IPRA, it spiked in the last couple years because of a phenomenon on social media, YouTube, these guys just going crazy about it. And,
Yeah.
but that's flattened out quite a bit. Surprisingly, the director of the department, the IPRA department in Albuquerque, has told me that what they have to deal with is plaintiffs, injury attorneys, IPRA and stuff on accidents and stuff like that, but we don't get much of that. I think anything dealing with the public is always a concern. I don't see any like wave of greater risk in looking forward than looking back. It's just something we always have to be very vigilant about. And tort claims,
And the limits.
yeah.
What's our average of tort claims? And a lot of them are there's no weight to them. But what do we average?
Mayor Crawford, Mayor Pro Tem Salas, they usually come in like 2 or 3, but I'd have to get a number for the whole year, but there's a lot of them, we get a tort, we submit it to the New Mexico Self-Insurance Fund, they send an adjuster over, they deny the claim, and then we get a lawsuit right after that, and then they've sent but I would say,
10 is be a maximum?
I'd say maybe 10 to 15
A year?
a year.
Well, we get inquiries all the time from potholes,
Potholes, water,
trip and falls.
water leaks, sewer backups,
backups.
somewhere they hit something or whatever, so.
And y'all know that we inspect them internally, and if we feel like, yeah, it's reasonable that it's our fault, we work out to pay it. We get our insurance company, we do it. It's the ones, the slip and falls playing Frisbee golf. It's reading their cell phone, stepping off a curb and hurting their back and needing adjustments. It's speeding through an icy intersection and having a wreck. It's stuff like that we fight. But there are things that were culpable that we didn't know. We had a water leak, that may have damaged a home that, you couldn't see it. It was underground. So those kind of things we do, but they're not a lot. They're not negligent stuff, like the police chief driving his private car, running a red light and hitting a car. Or,
In a Mustang?
none of that.
No, we had some where the BIA stopped somebody, and of course they not only us, but the county and the state police, things will be named as one of the,
During the McBride fire.
so just different things like that, so.
Ron, I'm dating myself, but years ago, we had some issues, and this was with prior council, on getting task orders completed. Knowing Zach and just observing things, I presume all that's fine now.
Yes.
We're not having to follow up, our attorneys adequately responding to everything we need.
That is correct, yes.
Thanks, Zach.
Yes. We've changed the way we contract with our legal. It's a one lump sum per annual instead of doing per task order. So it's really smoothed out a lot, so
We
he's
just
here-
make a phone call and say,
he's here quite a bit.
where we're at, and he shows up daily, and then
So we're able
by
to,
the time we had to identify it.
yep, and that's worked out much better, I think.
And COVID changed the way I practiced a lot too, and I've got my laptop and I keep my office, I go there some, but I try and stay mobile mostly for you guys, and I don't have a big bustling practice with a big staff or anything like that. I don't want it.
Well, it seems to be working quite well.
I think so.
Is there anything else that you can I know that, you know, some of the things that we see in the future, but we have special attorneys working on that is when we come back with the floodplain, floodway, you know, on the building permits and things that we're going to be working with those areas. Because we have a lot of folks waiting on that.
And Mayor and Council, just with these tort claims that have become lawsuits, it takes a lot of time. Not only myself, but for the directors that are involved, if it's a water department or it's street department or whatever department it is, as the mayor knows, because he sat in a lot of those hearings or mediation or whatever else, but it's a lot of work, and we're lucky we're able to have the self-insurance fund, and we're able to utilize not only Zach, but the self-insurance fund's legal team.
Yeah. What about if, you know, our guys, our Parks and Rec do such a wonderful job with the sidewalks, the icy and stuff? Because we are the ones that are doing that, if somebody slips and falls, does that, and they file because it was too icy, is that on us or is that?
On the state, because it's their sidewalk.
Mayor Crawford,
right.
Councilor Letterman, those are Department of Transportation sidewalks. If
Got it.
somebody does slip and fall on it, I immediately
Got it.
notified
Yes.
Department of
okay.
Transportation.
Thank you.
Because we had somebody there that slipped and fell in front of Zach's office on the sidewalk over there, but, so,
But that doesn't prevent us from being named
no.
defendants.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. We
Did
just,
he come in and say, I need a lawyer?
I slipped out the back door.
this card was,
Put his mustache on.
And my wig. Anything
Any
else,
other
Mayor?
questions for Zach?
Thanks, Zach.
All right.
Appreciate all you
thank you,
do.
Zach.
Okay, Jenny?
Can't ever decide if I want my glasses on or off. So I'll start with them off. Okay, Mayor and Council, the purpose statement of the clerk's office is to constantly strive to improve the quality of service to the citizens of the village of Ruidoso, lawfully and through sound and transparent management practices while maintaining a professional and attentive staff through neutrality and impartiality, while rendering equal and efficient service to all through the highest standards of integrity and work every day to build public trust in our office and our community.
Chat GBT much?
I'm sorry?
I sound like a little AI put in
Oh, I
there.
know. It's,
Wasn't? Okay.
no. Okay, so for the coming, my tactical plan for 2025, I have 5 of them. Although I have ending dates in there, I probably should have put ongoing. The first one, to transfer all the permanent public records to storage at the Horton Complex. I do have a room that's been designated over there for that. The public records management process in the clerk's office, I feel, has made some, I'm not going to say substantial, but has made some great improvements. One of the things that one of the main things that I was trying to do was to always get over to what's called the purchasing building and go through all those boxes. I found myself finding it difficult to put aside those days for Yvonne and I to wear our grungy clothes and go over there and go through all of that. So what we've done is I'm having Parks and Rec bring me 10 to 15 boxes from there that have destruction dates on there. And because it's my project in my office, you will find stacks of banker's boxes full of records. Done the same thing with the courts. They brought over a bunch of records. So I am making progress on getting those boxes of records that are going back 2009 forward, getting those done, and making progress in separating the records that are going to be categorized as permanent. Ordinances, resolutions, water rights, procurement, things of that nature.
Jenny, do you destroy, once you've got everything in Laserfish, do you destroy the box?
On the Laserfish side?
On the
Yes,
paperwork?
yes.
You go ahead and shred it?
Correct.
Yeah.
So right now, we have 4 bins, 4 shredding bins in Village Hall. There's 2 back where my office is, and then there's 2 here in the break room. Those 2 are those are just for the everyday things that need to be shredded that we don't want to necessarily tear in half and throw in a public trash can.
Sure.
The ones back where I am at are used for when the boxes after the certificate of destruction is approved by the governing body. That next day, I start going through each of them again and putting those in those bins, and then they pick them up once a month. A lot of times, the bulk of what I need to put in those bins is more than what the bins will hold. And you have to weigh out what we're paying a month as to how many bins I want to have in the building. So once again, that's why I offer my office also as a storage place, if you will, for those records that need to be destroyed, to try to get them out of other people's way and put them in my office, since it is one of my ongoing projects.
Are they destroyed off-site?
So the shredding company is bonded. It's a bonded company. They pick them up and they can provide us with a certificate saying that, yes, they were properly destroyed. So it is a bonded.
In the parking lot
Yeah.
Where I've seen them.
Yeah.
That's what they do at the bank,
They
yeah.
shred them right there, so
Yep.
they're not hauling it to the.
And the boxes, the bins are locked.
Yes.
You see them, they're in your office?
There's some right here in the.
There's some right here too.
So they're all locked.
How are we storing, like, emails?
We recently have gone cloud-based, and Systems MD and I talked about that. Right now, they they're going to be retaining all of the years that are in there so far that people have saved. I mean, they can go to the cloud and retrieve. I'm not sure how many years Leor told me. I have not done a recent email retention training with my staff. So what's happening right now is if we get an Inspection of Public Records Act on emails that go back dated a certain amount of time, Systems MD is still able to retrieve all of those. And then once they're retrieved and they're put in a file, I have to go through each one of them and make sure there's no personal identifiers in there before they are forwarded to the party requesting the records. So I probably should, well, not probably, I will and need to do an email retention training with my staff. The problem with the electronic records and email with the IPRA is that it is ever-changing, and every time that us clerks tried to get some definite clarification, it's still it's not black and white, it's still very, very gray. Does that answer your question, maybe?
Yeah, it is difficult, and again, my private experience, the other difficulty in producing records was cell phones and texts.
It is difficult.
We go through Verizon on the ones we have here.
Correct, and there are times when subpoenas are needed for that information. If there's an area where, especially with personal phones as compared to your business phone.
Right.
I find myself, every time I get an IPRA for text and phone calls on business or personal phones, seeking out to legal still. Because it makes me very nervous because I don't have that, I can't hold that information in front of me to produce.
Okay.
Jenny, about, at the warehouse.
Yes, sir.
About how far are you in going through those boxes? Because I remember that whole top was stacked to the ceiling.
Right, so initially when I started this, this project of bringing files over, Parks and Rec, they've been very, very helpful. They were bringing me boxes that had permanent records on them. So we sent those back, we're separating those out. Matthew, I mean, do you want to help me out here? I think they did some rearranging over there, so I'm not sure. And to be honest, I've only had one shipment brought over from there of about 12 boxes. I recently went through 12 boxes upstairs where Andrew is, and then the courts had brought me some over. So I've had 3 different shipments, if you will, of records coming in at once, but only one from the purchasing building.
Mayor Pro Tem, there are a lot over there. As you said, we're starting to scratch the surface, but I think we have a good process in place that,
So what's over there, you're saying about 90% is still there?
probably, I would say probably 90%. Now with, like I said, talking to my staff and, because like I said, that first group, that was permanent records. So those are gonna be staying there, and so sending those back to, yes, they will eventually be moved to the Horton when it's ready. So then the next bunch we brought over, I think, had like 2018 destruction dates on it. A lot of them do have destruction dates, so now we've trained my staff to look for those dates to say, hey, these should be good to go, to bring them on over. And that should expedite the process as we start moving forward.
And once that room at the Horton is complete and we get shelving taken over there, I feel that once we get those permanent records that are some upstairs, some in my office, and some at the purchasing building, we're going to see some progress. There's not going to be that much over there. The one thing, though, that I'm, even though they're permanent records, I still feel the need to go through them and properly box them. I'm struggling with, that's not as much of a priority as destroying them, if I can just get them to the Horton. And then, but eventually I will be having to properly store them, properly box them.
So if it has an expiration, if the box has an expiration date, do you still have to laser fish them? I mean, you've kept the records, so if it's expired, can't you just, if you want to go through to make sure there's no permanent, but would you have to laser fish all of that?
Councilor Letterman, yes, they probably had been already laser fished.
Okay.
So tagging on to my next strategic plan with Laserfish, our repository, which is what they call the storage hub of our records in Laserfish, is still very difficult to navigate. I'm not sure what year of Laserfish we are, my program is. I don't know if it needs to be updated. One of my goals is to be attending a Laserfish training. I was supposed to have gone last year and it didn't happen. I have plans to go this year, and one of those main focus is I have inherited a repository. Now what do I do with it to make it mine? I went in a couple of weeks ago to try to delete some records that had no significant value, such as there was things like notes and invoices from a long time ago, and I couldn't delete them.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had a retention period of, say, in 2010, they were to be destroyed and they're still in there, I should be deleting them.
Yeah.
So I still, I need to learn that.
Yeah.
And that's what I plan on doing at a training in April.
Okay.
Every time I can present a certificate of destruction to the governing body, I feel, it makes me feel better, and I'm trying really diligently to do that more and more.
But they do laser everything, and then it's only the permanent ones that keep the
Right.
physical.
So the deal is not only are you going through the boxes to destroy the stuff that has already expired, but then you have to go back on Laserfish and destroy them on Laserfish.
You don't have to, but we should. We
You
should.
destroy laserfish?
Yes.
If it's already
But-
expired.
But what I,
Then why laser them at all? So we could find them
correct.
during that period?
Correct. So something to keep in mind is if you have a record, we'll just say a contract, just for an example, from 2020, and it was a contract, it was a small purchase agreement, something that wasn't necessarily procured, something that had a retention life, and it's not permanent. And you have it in Laserfish, and you have it in your office, you have it in my office. If I get an IPRA for that, a copy of that, even though it's past this retention period, if I physically have custody of it, I have to produce it again.
Yes. So if it's already expired and you don't have, and you've
Did not,
gotten rid of both the hard copy and the Laserfish, you don't have to produce it.
no, you have to. If you still have it, you have to. That's
Right,
why
but
it's
if you-
important.
But you got rid of it.
If you got rid of it, you do not have to reproduce it, correct?
Come in and ask for
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
Then
I don't have
that
it.
record no longer
That's what
exists.
she's
Okay,
getting.
yeah, okay. Okay, so that is quite a chore.
And my deputy clerk, she's right there with me most of the time, and she's helping me with that. And the training that I get in April, we'll be coming back and we'll be cross-training her for some of the more specifics. And it's changing a lot. The records management along tagging with the IPRA side, it changes, is changing quite a bit.
I just know from the bank that, you can Laserfish all day, but if you don't get them in the proper order
Can't
where
find
you can.
It is hard to
find it,
navigate.
You might, what good is it? Because you can't find it. So I totally understand. I know that that's a big job, so thank you.
And I can remember when I first got on the council, we were trying to figure out how we ended up here in these discussions. That it seems silly and dumb that we're here, but the people weren't dumb and silly that got us here. So what happened? And so we would physically have to go through and say, well, do you remember when they did that or when I did that? And I'd call them on the phone. They say, I think that was like 1998. And then you go back and look through the minutes to figure out what happened. And then we got where we could do search words when we had them Laserfish. And so that helped. So that just goes out the window. If you're doing like minutes and discussions and
Minutes are permanent record.
they're permanent.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor.
And so when you said contracts, you wouldn't get rid of a contract.
I use that maybe I shouldn't have used that example. A lot of the small purchase agreements and stuff that have a minimal can be after a certain, usually it's 3 to 5 years after an audit or fiscal year has ended. But most of the RFP, ITBs, especially construction-wise, for FEMA and all of that are permanent,
Primarily, what records are permanently destroyed? What would that
or
be?
permanently kept.
Destroyed. Well, that would be destroyed.
Receipts, the small purchase contracts.
So we have about 12 pages of things that have retention lives, anywhere from 1 year up to 10.
What are those kind of things besides receipts?
Accounts payable, accounts receivable, some payroll, not HR files. HR files are, some of them are like up to 50
So the
years.
majority of everything is kept, sounds like. All the minutes from all the different committees
Correct.
are all kept permanently.
Minutes, ordinances,
Payroll,
resolutions. I don't have that list in front of me. I can't
But I
remember
mean,
on
it's
payroll.
like- I was just curious as to, how big of a repository do we need?
Yeah, that's a good question.
To where
I
we're
agree.
stacking this stuff.
Well, I agree, because our repository is very full, and it's very full of things that don't need to be in there.
Yeah.
And it needs to be replaced with stuff that should be in there. And it's very important to get that repository in order, if you will, because our departments need to be able to navigate and find what they're looking for.
Exactly.
And I think I feel we've made some improvements, but it's still very difficult, and it's important for me to have our departments be able to find what they need.
Jenny, when you say Laserfish, are you talking about maintaining a digital copy?
Correct, in the cloud.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, Counselor.
like, again, my experience, we didn't have paper files. We scanned everything and it was all in the cloud. And so that made the retention a lot easier to manage because it was digital, it wasn't physical.
Correct. Right now in my office, with the example of contracts, if a contract is still current, I have the paper.
Right.
Then we scan in everything, and then I can put that in the pile to be destroyed within 3 to 4 years.
Okay, gotcha.
So with the, I guess you and Yvonne are the only ones that are, let's just say, qualified to go through those particular records to verify the ones that are being destroyed. With 90% of the facility still hasn't gone through, how long do you figure that would take at the current rate that you're able to handle it?
Yep.
If we could get through what's in that building over there, then my departments have already been given some training as to they have copies of the retention schedule. As an example, that's why the courts brought over some documents to me that, okay, this is a schedule. They're like, Jenny, we see that this is on the schedule of the retention life is over. So from here forward, well, not from here, well, for what's not in the purchasing building and what's in here. The departments, they have the retention schedule list, and they can go through what's in their file, in their office every year. Now, to a timeline of to get through that building over there, I don't know. I don't know. As an example, I mean, I've had 12 boxes in my office for a month, and they're still there. But that was because I went upstairs and did some and got some from the courts. Realistically, if I could do 10 to 12 boxes a month, Matthew, how many boxes do you think is over there if you had to count?
So there are a few hundred boxes over there.
Oh, yeah.
But I really do think with the new process, we're probably looking at 12 to 18 months period to be able to clear that out. Because a lot of it, I think, will move a lot faster once we start getting the process going. We're still, like I said, refining the finer details of it, but once we get those details going, I really do feel, we'll bring 15 boxes over a month. Jenny will be able to go through them fairly quickly and then destroy them. Because some of them are, it's funny because some of the boxes we move and it has 4 pieces of paper in it.
Yeah.
And so that takes about all of 5 minutes for Jenny to open up and go, yep, that one's good. Or like a payroll box is an old, the old dot printer that rolls, and it's one of those that was printed out at the end of the year for all the payroll for the year. Well, it's literally one sheet of paper in the 1992 payroll box that, can be quickly evaluated and moved on, so.
Does every department Laserfish their own stuff?
No.
Okay. So that's dependent on you and Yvonne.
So I was just going to say, so one example is like our end of the year vendor files. You might have 16 to 20 boxes of invoices and check stubs.
Yeah.
And over there, I think we found from 2015 are still over there. So you figure that, 10 years of 20 boxes. Once she knows that they're all invoices, I mean, those can go pretty fast. You also have 12 boxes of cashiering deposit recaps, probably for the same amount of years. So a lot of the boxes are repetition, just different years of the same thing. So once they start pulling those, I think it could go fast.
Yeah.
In mayor and council, there was, prior administration or the clerks, there was just even, there was a fear of shredding or getting rid of documents. When you, in fear of scanning them,
Who you're talking about.
they wanted to keep it, so that's why there's that many boxes. Yes, and that's a lot of it. So now Jenny's having to, she's working and Yvonne and cleaning all that up, so.
Anything else from Jenny?
On the goal, that's on number 1 and 2.
Okay.
Number 3, update and maintaining the asset inventory list. I put this on there last year. I have the current or the current insurance inventory list. Yvonne and I review that probably every couple, 3 months to make sure that whenever we see a project that comes across, say on the agenda, if there's an item for a task order for oversight of substantial completion of a project or a building, we will go and make sure we have that, that it is entered into the insurance portal, and that if it was, suppose it was I'll use an example of replacing a roof on a building, and we knew how much that project was. Well, I can use the example of at the convention center, the roof. We knew how much that was. We go into the insurance portal and we update the value of the building.
Yeah.
And that is also still ongoing, as we are constantly,
Who keeps a list of our vehicles?
we do, the clerk's office.
So when one's decommissioned, that's recorded through you all and it gets off the insurance? Because I recall years back where we were paying insurance on vehicles that were in the junkyard.
Oh, boy.
I mean, and it was a substantial
Right.
amount of money.
When we first got,
Yvonne?
When we first took over that, we printed the whole list and then went department to make sure that we had what we should take off, what we didn't need, and add what should have been on there.
Okay.
In Mayor Crawford, Mayor Pro Tem Salas, we also went to every department. We had somebody actually go and eyeball each one of them to make sure the VIN number to the insurance. So that's when we moved it over there, and Yvonne's handling all the registrations and all that. It's worked great.
And the
They've done an
titles-
excellent
and the
job with
titles,
that.
make sure we had titles to each one.
Yeah.
And if we didn't, we had applied for some missing titles.
So do we put asset stickers on everything we have here?
I'm sorry?
Do we
I'm
do
sorry.
asset? No?
Stickers.
Oh, no, Counselor, we do
Okay,
not.
so we don't know what we had. We don't
So
keep a running tab on what we have in office furniture and what we have. Okay.
We don't.
Okay.
Our vehicles are numbered, like WD-01, Water Distribution 1,
By
but
the VIN number, that's usually
Yeah.
how it's recorded.
So, Mayor and Councilman Letterman, so that will actually be on my next year's master plan or strategic plan. We're looking forward to next year through my facilities department is an asset management. So this year I'm it's not on my strategic plan, but we're trying to find an asset management program that would do stuff like that, facility management and asset management, and then
Yeah.
next year start that process of, that, like you said, sticker in every chair and every desk and everything. Part of that's on the facility side, so when I need to fix this door, I can put in that this door right here is one that needs to be fixed. My guys can scan it, say we did this, and I can keep a log, and if that door's cost me a lot of money, maybe it's time to replace it type
Yeah.
of thing. But, that will be on next year's strategic plan.
Okay.
Matthew, this is over and above IT. Is Andrew doing IT separate or?
I would like to see if we could get it all in one system, but if not, Andrews would probably be separate.
And then, as it relates to that, years ago, Ron, we had kind of a replacement schedule. Do we still do that?
Each, mayor and, council member Corey, each department kind of does, like my department, like I have a schedule for our mowers. A certain type of mower, we change out every 4 years, another type every 6 years, weed eaters every 3 years, like each department does have.
So you're being more proactive and not waiting till it just breaks down.
Exactly, and that's our goal, and I mean, I'll be honest, like a lot of them is, say a mower is 5 years on a certain mower. That mower can probably last us 6 or 7 years, but I'm gonna start at that 5-year mark, working with council to try to get a replacement for it. That way, if something does happen, say a disaster or something, we're not able to replace it, we didn't wait till the end of life and it's just no longer any good. And when then we're without, we try to stay on top of that so we can replace it before. One, it's costing us more money to maintain than it's cost, than the value of it, and two, we don't wanna be without an asset we use regularly.
Any other questions on that one? Okay, my strategic plan number 4 is create a master property list of all village-owned properties, easements, water rights, et cetera. I have begun that list, going through the files that we have of warranty deeds, easements, et cetera. I've started putting them on a spreadsheet that I will put on the shared drive, and I'm finding that we have several files that are missing copies of the recorded easement, deed, et cetera. So I have a list going where I will, at some point, need to go to the county office there in Carrizozo and get copies of all of the missing recorded instruments.
Do we have any properties we're currently trying to sell?
No,
Not to my, Counselor Corey, not to my knowledge.
we've done that.
Is everything at Grindstone that we were selling to Jack Musa, is that all?
I'm not sure if there may be 1 or 2 left
There
that,
might be a couple of properties left there, but
that was just for tax roll purposes.
Okay.
But I think that there's maybe 1 or 2, but I think he's completed
And
all
what-
those.
And once he sells it, and then we'll get a quitclaim deed, and the mayor will execute
And the
that.
property out by Alto Alps, that was sold?
Yeah.
What about the, what was originally the cemetery property on Ski Run? Do we still own it?
Was that where we have the disc golf?
Yeah, and then
that's our disc.
and then we purchased the other property that was before you got here, for the sole purpose of protecting the watershed. That nothing will ever be built on it. That's a big piece over there that is the disc golf course, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then across the street with those houses.
Okay, and moving on then, our last strategic plan is training for the clerk's office and for my deputy clerk to receive and achieve her certification as a certified municipal clerk. All of my tactical plans, the resources needed are all time, except for the training, and that would just be funding for the deputy clerk for training and for my continuing education as a master municipal clerk.
Beautiful.
Oh, Greg Corey, forget the text I just sent you. It goes.
Wrong Greg.
You're wrong, Greg. Sorry.
Just got it, I'm like, what?
Well, they're scheduling with me and I sent it to the wrong one. Sorry.
Did you have proprietary information on your watch phone?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Go ahead. That's what happens when I try to multitask.
One thing that isn't listed on this tactical plan is the migration of the new agenda software from Novus Agenda to what's called Peak Agenda. Yvonne and I sat in on what they call a kickoff call, where we all introduced ourselves, and they told us the training that they would put Yvonne and I through, and who we wanted to include in that, which might be a couple of department heads. And then Yvonne and I will be bringing a small, very comprehensive training to you all. It's very, 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 very similar to Novus Agenda. I do not anticipate any issues of understanding the new up-to-date system.
So what, is that why we're getting rid of Novus, is because this
So
is?
Novus's life is over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And as soon as Granicus announced that, you would not believe the calls that I got wanting us to use eScribe or probably 5 different software company, please bring us on board. We know that you use Novus Agenda and that its life is over. We chose to stay with Granicus and migrate over to the Peak for 2 reasons. Well, one of them, we were able to negotiate down the price of our monthly or our yearly charge. And the second one is the similarity of
Yeah.
the new software to what we're using right now.
Sure.
So they told Yvonne and I to look at 3.5 months before we would even talk about the actual implementation of the software. There will be no lapse in time, there will be no time that, that we won't have any kind of a service of software, and we will schedule it as soon as our monthly meeting is over, before the next one begins, so there won't be any lapse in time.
Mr. Mayor, Jenny, will Andrew be a key stakeholder in that transition?
I don't think so.
Because he's who we call when things don't go well.
Oh, that part, yes. We will make sure
Not saying
that,
they won't be smooth.
Oh, I know.
And integrated, but
it seems like every time we have any kind of a meeting set, Yvonne and I are always make sure Andrew's here, because that little corner over there, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen if Andrew's not there.
Yeah.
besides he has that magic.
What else? Is that it?
Mayor and council, that's all I have. Do you have any questions or comments or
Yeah,
concerns?
great job. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next is Mama Cheryl, and if everybody like join me to stand up, take a deep breath. 'cause I'm already getting sleepy.
absolutely. Is this where we say brevity is appreciated?
Brevity, yeah. Remember, the brain can only absorb what the honey can.
Endure.
You guys.
Okay, and she knows when I call her mama, I'm just trying to be funny, because it's true.
Rich Olson's trying to get on.
Okay, Cheryl?
Okay. Good morning again. Before I get started on my tactical plan, Counselor Salas asked if I would report on injuries and accidents for 2024.
Safety, I was looking for a safety portion in your report, so I didn't see anything there, but I was curious of how many workman comps we had in the last year. And because the self-insurance fund gives us credit if we keep, a pretty good profile, and are we getting our safety training hours turned in and stuff? Because that if I remember right, that reflects on
David's
that
all
rebate.
over it.
Mayor, Counselor Salas, so the league doesn't track the hours the way they used to.
Okay.
However, we do have required training that Dave is doing, or that we're bringing in the self-insurance fund to do.
Right.
And a lot of that is because we're doing a lot of that internally, and we're not spending money on
Right.
those
And-
people coming in and doing
The
it.
safety counseling when they've, yep.
Mayor, Counselor Salas, we did have 13 injuries in 2024, but only 6 of those required no doctor visit, so we had 7 that were work comp claims. Only 4 of those had, more than 1 day away from work. 21 vehicle accidents.
Yike.
Most of them were minor damage, like a bumper or a tail light.
Backing up.
We've had our share of backing accidents, which Dave is doing a monthly accident investigation and backing class.
Y'all get those
And defensive
texts?
driving.
The emails, he's saying sign up, okay.
And then 4 of them were snow-related last January, or the 21, so.
Okay. Thank you very much, because, that's something that we were always try to be on top on, and the two that had the most back in my day was the police department, and Parks and Rec was number 2. So, and.
That was because y'all didn't tie your shoes and we kept tripping over
We
you.
did, just, if we even came with shoes. So that's the part of what's, and it was always the employees' participation in the training. But yet, like, that's where the incentive, because that rebate, it returned back to the employees.
Right.
So,
Right.
through safety equipment, snow boots and stuff like that, or what have you. But
And-
that's,
Counselor Salas, I didn't go back and look at 2023, but
that's all right.
I know there's been a significant improvement just with the safety training and awareness.
Right.
We still have a lot of work to do, but we do have a lot of employees getting into class and getting scheduled for the mandatory classes, and so it is helping. I can tell you that.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, so for my, my first goal, which we briefly talked about, is to have a compensation study done. We want to retain a reputable company to come in and perform a very thorough compensation survey.
And where's your budget? Have you got any ideas? Because those get real expensive.
They do, the last time, I would say it was within the last year, I reached out to one company, Gallagher, to give us a
Yep.
quote. It was 60,000.
Do
So-
you have access to like the SHRM or the municipal league? Do they have compensation studies?
Municipal League did send one a few months
Yeah.
back.
But it's not super in-depth. It's a call out to municipalities and say, can you give us what you're getting paid, that kind of a deal. This one is deep and wide that they do.
I think what we'll need to do is just get quotes from several of these companies, and if it goes over our threshold, we'll just have to,
Because we did some on some positions to try to get a handle on it, and the study was more than what the annual salary plus was going to be.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, also in the past, we've visited with other entities about having them join us, so we do one maybe with share the cost, so we'll continue to do that also.
Okay.
Try to get a,
Well, and the other question is, should we take a targeted approach? For example, should we just look at public safety initially, or is
Well, we do that with the police department. That's
Yep.
put out statewide, and I know we're active in the municipal league and the Chiefs Association and all that, and then the fire department is pretty that. But where I think that I wish we could figure it out is the jobs that we talked about before that are hard to fill.
right?
Why can't we target that one department and not upset the whole apple
Yeah,
cart?
exactly.
And we haven't been able to get around that. I know we've talked to Deanna, the attorney, and it has to do with just the way our structure is in public.
But you have different skill sets in each position.
well, and Mayor, Counselor, I think that's where a good reputable company coming in to look at job descriptions and what those skills, what those jobs require is important. And I know there's probably a hefty price tag on it, but when we did the one in 2020, the company didn't do that. They didn't look at all of our job descriptions and what the requirements are for the position, and that's gonna dictate where positions fall in the pay scale.
What, do they take into account cost of living and all of that?
All of
They do.
that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and it's different because we're always talking about something physically demanding, cold, whatever. But if you don't have somebody competent that answers the phone, it causes a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and some of,
Costs more.
yeah, and so it's
And
hard to
who-
judge. It's basically who's applying, how many people are applying for a position, then we got to focus on the other one.
You'd have to pay me a lot to get down in a hole with number one and number two.
Number two.
So Cheryl, is this budgeted currently?
Counselor
look
Corey, it is
like.
not.
No.
It is
Okay.
not. We would have to go to, we would have to do our homework prior to budget.
So what's a realistic timeline on when we could get a study started?
Well, I would request it in March during budget. By then I'll know what the cost is gonna look like.
Okay.
And then if we need to put a scope of work together to do an RFP, we'll go that route. If we don't, if it's under our threshold, then we can
But it'd probably be the fall.
start it immediately.
All that said, we have, through public information, we have access to, and I don't mean to dwell on public safety, but it's at the top of my head. For example, we could contact Alamogordo and find out what their salaries are for police officers.
Sure.
We do that.
And we do that already.
Okay.
That's how
And
we
that's how we
did.
call the league.
Yeah.
And they put that out real quick and we can get that back, but it's other like, water resource specialist, economic development director. It's those levels that we look at that needs more special attention.
Do we use headhunters for those kinds of
We've
positions?
talked about it before, but the last headhunters we looked at were, really expensive.
Yes. They were like 25% of their salary.
Yeah, and then they want a percentage of their salary.
No, and I've had horrible luck with headhunters.
Yep.
You know, if somebody is qualified, they don't need a headhunter to find them a job.
And just because they're qualified doesn't mean that they'll fit in with our organization.
Good point, good point.
We've had that happen in the fire department before.
So
Are
Cheryl,
you from another planet almost?
you know, they
Like
made
your
mention
credentials,
of
but,
the hazard, jump down in the hole when sucking the water out and all that good stuff. So is there a possibility, could you have, let's say, an overtime pay would be a different line, but a hazard pay time slot, say, once you enter that zone during that particular work schedule, that particular, it's not a project, but that event takes, could that be entered into another time slot as far as your pay? And whether it's called hazard pay or whatever extra pay, that could be a different, it'd be kind of like categorized like your overtime pay, but it would be a different.
Mayor, Councilor Eby, we do have callback pay currently. So if there is an emergency or a water leak, whatever the case, and the employees are called back, they're getting time and a half pay, even if they're not in an overtime situation. Hazard pay was brought up a lot during the event. Could be something that we look at. I don't know how other municipalities handle that, but I can certainly find out.
And then you remember we had some salary positions that we, during all this, that we paid additional funding for, even though by definition and agreement, you don't have to. We did.
Yep.
And then, but as far as being able, and then tracking all that on the additional pay, there was a conversation I had that, if the temperature's below a certain degree, that there's additional pay for that, and it's, how do you keep track of all that?
Well, that'd be the director's responsibility to.
Well, it's
all
different
that.
line item.
And it's just that, I'm thinking of that because then you wouldn't be increasing the whole department's pay overall. It would be just for those incidents that are undesirable working conditions that people would get paid a little extra.
Yes, sir. We can look into that.
I'm sorry,
No,
Cheryl.
go ahead.
When was the last time we increased police and fire?
Just recently.
Fire
Yeah.
about 3 years ago.
2 years?
Yeah, it hadn't been three.
No, it's just been recently, and then they were the recipients of
Oh,
up
yeah,
to
yeah.
like $12,000 and,
Yeah,
That was last year.
Yeah.
Maybe a year and a half ago
I
at the
think
most.
so.
yeah.
I
And
think
so
it was last
those are as current can be.
The police was about 3.
No, we went through the police department and got those guys updated because that's where a lot of the discussion came from with state police getting the big raises and bonuses.
So they got 2 within the last 3.
To what, raises?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did one and then we came back.
Yes,
a year
I'm
later.
sorry, I misunderstood. Said, yeah, we keep our eyes tied real close on that
Mayor,
one.
when you say we're as current can be, are we,
On police and fire.
but we're at the level the other municipalities?
Yes, as far as we know, that there hasn't been and we're always looking over here for trying to fix this one, and we think so to date, we've been keeping up to track on them. And then doing surveys, and then it's kind of a statewide issue because of what the governor's done with the state police officers, offering the big bonuses, sign-on bonuses. And then we worked on the retention to the legislators and got the money for that, and then paid that out to police, and that was pretty successful, but we've had 3 that left that now owe us money that we have to pay back if we don't collect it. And so we've made arrangements to get that money back. But we've constantly done those, and those are things that are right in our direct view. The peripheral are the ones that we never seem to be able to, how do you do it? Because it's always taken into consideration first responder, public safety, it's kind of a different category. When we're talking about the guys that are having to shovel the snow on a cold freezing morning, the guys that got a water leak and they're down there digging, and those are the jobs that I want to figure out some way that it's never easy, but it's easier to swallow and to do. And that person's not always looking for another job, hopefully within the village, but how do we keep them in that makes it satisfactory, that the pain is worth the time?
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, just the last couple of years with the state police, they've anywhere from 14% to 18%, I believe, is what the governor was doing the increases for state police. So a lot of departments they've lost employees to the state police.
So, Ron, a hypothetical, and it gets back to the affordable housing issue. You have a candidate for a position you're actively wanting to hire, and she or he indicates, I can't find a place to live, or I can't afford a place to live. Are we able to leverage our affordable housing, workforce housing?
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, on the Rock House and the 2 cabins, yes, we were able to work on that. On the 1114 Meacham, that went through our management, our company, and we do have, I believe, 2 employees living in that location there. But the Rock House and the 2 cabins was one that we offered, and we've even had some discussions of possibly maybe purchasing some additional modular, smaller ones, and maybe setting them on village property there where we could attract somebody. They could at least stay there for a time period and then be able until they could find a house, just like the mayor said. We get the 72 units, which is going to be still another year or so. That'd be another location they could come in, and if there was availability, they could rent. But I think Judy and I were talking about trying to possibly purchase some additional mobile homes and place them in different areas. And we had this discussion with the mayor.
For employee housing?
Yes, 3 years ago, we had that same discussion and set them somewhere where we could attract somebody and have a place to live.
So Cheryl, as it relates to openings, I presume it's not just salary, it's benefits, it's cost of living, quality of life.
Yes, Mayor and Councilor Corey, yes. I'd like them to do the salary and benefits, do an evaluation on the pay for performance program that we have for different reasons, and then, and of course, cost of living, CPI.
And some of these folks that we come in, that we want to hire, it becomes a cost of living, it becomes a housing issue, and then we look within that pay band. And then if that doesn't work, then we don't have another option if we don't have something they temporarily can move into that's at our affordable rate. And then we're out of bullets, and so they don't come, or they go somewhere else. Or the cannabis has been an issue, that they want to use medical cannabis. And so we haven't been able to figure out how to get that done. All of our legal people say don't touch it, but you see, was it Espanola? Is it that who just passed that? Or one of those?
Of course they did.
Man, I'm shocked.
Yeah, no kidding, that's a shocker. It's one of those that's passing that, hey, we can have medical cannabis. And it was because some of the people on the council, they're cannabis people. And so they don't think there's anything wrong with it, but, you know, it's concerning on workman's comp side, it's concerning on liability issues. There's just a lot of things like that, and so we've been advised to keep our nose out of that for now until someday, somewhere, they're gonna be able to tell, were you impaired at that time, or is it residual?
Right.
Especially Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, safety-sensitive positions, and if you have a CDL or whatnot, but several years ago, Randy Van Fleck, who represented the league, the attorney, said that you had to have that.
Yes.
You had to offer that medical marijuana card, and then our attorney, when we revised our policy, said you don't want to put that in there.
Yeah.
No, and he's been a dork. He's the one that said, well, have you ever, or if you've ever thought about that maybe you were harassed on your job in workplace situation, you could have a case. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like suing the village, just like, because he looked at me, she looked at me wrong. So he's a goomba, he really is. My God, what an idiot.
Could you further define that for me? I wasn't sure I caught the gist.
Oh, my Lord. That guy, every time he showed up to do something, all of a sudden it was like, well, everybody's unhappy now. What did you say, Randy?
He really crossed you, didn't he?
Well, because on the league, we had to deal with all this, and he worked for the league, and I'm like, you got to get him out of here. And then after I got to see all the books as secretary, what we were paying him? Wow. Crazy. So, yeah, it twists my panties up real quick every time I think about him and that other guy.
Well, plus, I think there's a concern. I think there's always a concern with cannabis, medical or not, where you have people with heavy equipment operations.
Yeah.
Or are they, you know, even if they're an employee of the village, if they're driving a village vehicle to a meeting, or, I mean, it gets very, very, very difficult, I think. Now, as regards whether it was long-term or recent use, there is an availability now where they can actually do serum levels, but I don't know that that's really the answer, because if it's there, then how do you define what level you had to be at before you got into trouble? And so, yeah, I think it's a yeah, exactly. How drunk were you is the whole thing.
Mayor,
I think it's better not to leave that, to open that can of worms.
Same with your prescription medications, your codeines and all those.
Well, or sedative hypnotics,
Yeah.
your Ativan and all the rest of it.
Mayor, Counselor Jackson, our attorney also advised that because we receive federal grant funding
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's not legal federally, that we could be at risk for losing that.
And that was a real, just a quick nip, that was a very big concern among providers who were asked to write prescriptions for medical cannabis, because their licensure for DEA prescriptions, which is everything that's not, that is controlled, it would fall under the federal government. And so they could easily just find you in default and pull the license. They've kind of looked the other way, but it was still pretty sketchy at the beginning. And I think there's still some that look at it wondering, well, will they, when the tide changes with different administrations, will that thinking change? And so it is a very real concern.
Yes, sir. I was going to provide some dates. We did, the Mercer Group did the pay study in early 2020, and then the internal adjustment was April of '23. I may have already said that. The fire department, the updated pay plan for the fire department was approved October of '23, and then dispatch was just approved April of '24. I don't know that we've looked at police. I don't know that we've looked at police since the Mercer study in 2020. From
I know
looking back.
they've had pay increases, so we may not have paid anybody, but we've certainly had discussions in
Yeah.
the back and paid officers and.
I thought we did
Cheryl
twice.
I'm sorry. Was Mercer the group you weren't real happy with?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I had a similar experience with them
Okay.
last year.
I just don't feel they were very thorough.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
put together
and-
quickly and,
I got the feeling they were more, they just wanted the money.
Cookie cutter type.
yeah.
Right,
Okay,
move on.
moving on to the second tactical goal is the organizational assessment that I talked about earlier. And I'd like to just look at those as a future plan for the village. And I want to say, it doesn't necessarily mean, that we would come and ask for a lot of additional positions. It may be that we just need to restructure, and maybe one of the operational technicians, line staff, possibly changing that position to a middle management position. Because I do think we're lacking in those middle supervision, where we're not really growing our people. They're very operational.
How are job descriptions updated? Is that the responsibility of each department?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And do we know if that's being done on a timely basis?
Mayor, Councilor Corey, it's not done on a consistent basis. When it gets time to post a position, if something's changed, then they're going to make those adjustments and work with HR to get those done. So any questions on the organizational assessment? I'd just like to bring it as a plan and work with Ron and Mike on it to see what we can do. And if everyone agrees that we need those positions, we'll figure out a way to do that. What does that look like? And in time, maybe those are things we can budget for in the future and restructure the departments.
Okay.
Okay. The third goal is retention and turnover tracking. We also talked about that briefly.
When we assess a manager's performance, is the rate of turnover included in that assessment?
I don't think so,
I
is it?
don't think so, no.
It's usually just on goals met.
Yes, it just depends, and Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, it just depends on, we have our forms and we go through it, but I mean, there's a lot knowing exactly what their job description is, reviewing their job description is part of it, making sure they're following that, but also how they're managing, how the department's doing. So there's a lot that takes place in order to, whenever you evaluate.
My point is, as Cheryl knows, employee turnover is very, very expensive.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
For an organization. It's disruptive. Arguably, you've trained someone out the door. Going forward, I think we need to work with our managers closer as far as looking at turnover rates and satisfaction levels within the department to try to get control of it.
And Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, on some of the departments, I'll use Public Works. Whenever they hire somebody, a lot of them, they may make 2 months of their probationary period, and they just,
They're out the door.
some leave and they don't respond back.
Generally, those, the
Other
other
ones-
ones, it's the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not anything else. I just don't like doing that work, and I want to go to another department, or I don't have to be that physical, and I don't want to be on call, and those kind of things. And so that's why we talk about can we pay those
Yep.
types of jobs more money to incentivize them more. And that's where we have issues, because it's not overall. You can look at the percentage of vacancies we have, it's very slim.
Yep.
All you gotta do is go walk down Midtown and talk to entrepreneurs like yourself and see how hard is it to find people. It's very difficult. And right now, you see what's happening at Alto Country Club and just in my business and whatever. I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do. And so I think we're leaps and bounds ahead of those things, and it's just certain jobs that people don't want to work that hard.
Right, and that's what comes down to it too. Then your expectations get lower, your standards get lower.
Yeah.
Then it reverses around, then the person goes, well, I
Except
know.
for pay goes up.
Yeah, but I know I don't have to do as much because I'm still gonna get a job. I'm still gonna get to come to work.
And Judy's had that same issue also, and just talking to other managers and talking to AJ and others around the state. I mean, all the municipalities are just trying to find finance people. There's not a lot that want to get in the local government. So that's been a tough also.
And then it's, you know, it's housing. We've had a lot of folks that, oh yeah, driving's no issue. And then it becomes an issue after 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the reality and expectations, and it's just, it's one of those things that we've tried to be creative. We've tried to figure out how do we do those, and
Mayor and council, I just brought this report to share, but we had 53 terminations in 2024.
It's quite a few.
It's quite a few.
So that's what, like 20%?
close, yeah.
I would say there's a high number in here.
Terminations or resignations?
Well,
Both.
both.
Both,
Both,
okay.
but I was going to say there's quite a few in here that were probationary, and, you know, the director worked with them to correct something and didn't work out, wasn't a good fit. There may have been a termination, or they may have resigned for other reasons.
Well, and the skeptic in me would say maybe our hiring practices need to be revisited. We hired the wrong people.
Correct. And a lot of times it's a crapshoot. I always
Oh,
say
yeah.
that.
Oh, it-
You-
Sure.
You know, they interview well. You want to give people a shot. Sometimes they don't have a lot of experience, but you think you can work with them and give them a shot. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But yeah, it's a crapshoot when you start hiring. And yes, I've thought about that. Are we, you know, do we need to tighten that up? But again, just try and get people in the door and thinking that we can work with them, train them, and
Sure.
help them develop skills and be a good employee, you know.
But we do also offer them a chance if they don't come to find out, I don't like that job, but I sure would like to go over there. We allow that if
We do allow that.
If there's an
yeah.
opening and
If
they're
there's an
qualified.
opening,
And they're
yeah,
qualified.
and
Then
they've been a
people-
good
And
employee.
we've had them that say, I want that job, and they don't get that job, then they're mad at everything, and then it becomes, y'all are holding me down,
Yeah,
you know, and so you're dealing with people.
53 is quite a bit.
Well, I can think of 3 that I know that they started with a goal to go into this department, so they were taking all the side classes. And then they thought, that's too much work. I don't want to be in that position, like a police officer or the dispatcher, that they were in another department. They took this job because it was open. And then others just don't fit. You know, there's personality issues, there's
Yeah,
just those kind of things that are typical.
yeah.
And then there's always family issues, you know, I need to leave and take care of my father, and,
Oh, yeah, we've had a lot
you
of
know,
that.
we've had some of that, so. I don't see, Counselor Corey, I know I don't see any red flags
Good.
at this time when it comes to management. I don't see a pattern.
Good.
I just kind of see stuff all over the place. However, I do think I want to track it and be able to have that data on paper for everybody, so.
Like, we don't care if Matthew wears purple shirts. That's just a perk. Bold choice. Bold choice. He looks good. I like purple.
Looks great having survived a fire.
My next goal is to bring back an incentive plan for state and federal certifications that employees can acquire. The village had a incentive plan prior to 2022. When we introduced pay for performance, we did away with the incentive plan. Now that we've also changed pay for performance over the years and the amount that employees can earn. And I feel like that needs to be looked at, and I feel like we need to work with all the departments and draft an incentive plan for certifications that are earned.
It all
that are
has to be
gonna-
done with the oversight of the finance department to find out how it fits into our budget.
Correct, yeah, we'd have to do a cost analysis on that, average cost analysis, but things like certified project managers, fuel tank operators, transfer station certifications that are, required by NMED and.
And keep into account that when we did all of this, then we start doing a water rate, a sewer rate, all that rate studies, and it comes back and said, well, your human costs are not only this much, so then we raise the water rates, and then we raise the pickup rates, and then we raise the water treatment rate, and all of those things goes all the way through.
What a vicious cycle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it never goes down.
No.
And then it's in every department, just what equipment costs. And then when we look at the labor and that we need to keep up with, all that comes to an end user.
But I thought we did have, like your water levels. If someone moved
do.
from
We do.
that, we
We
give
have,
them.
Counselor Salas, we have
incentive.
those worked into the pay plan.
And the fire department has theirs, the police department
Yeah,
has theirs.
So,
I saw some from the library that they'd finished some.
So with that being said there, Mayor, you bring up an interesting point, is that once you come back with a personnel study as far as the pay, then is there any way with the particular company that we contracted the rate study with, that you just simply ship them the proposed wage increases? And that they should be able to just plug it in and in 2 seconds come up and say, well, you're still on track, Roy Doso, or, hey, you're going to need to raise your rates.
Well, and that's why the rate studies, we're implementing them over 5 years, is because that expectation is.
Well, it'd be something just to double check, just to make sure that.
And that's why we have some employees that save us thousands of dollars. And then being safe, we try to incentivize those things. And that becomes a whole nother department keeping up with that. Of how do we, get people to work smarter, see ability to save money, taking care of tools. I can remember when I first got on council, we'd run out of flipping rakes in the water department, and the fire department, or shovels in the water department. And then I knew a lot of the guys, and I knew where they were at. They were in their garages, And so we started keeping inventory control, and then it's little things that you just expect that don't happen. So if there was a way that by efficiency that departments were ran, and that's a hard number. And so we've looked at how could the savings that people bring us. And I can just think of some of them in the water department that they knew where the valve was, or they knew how to do this instead of us having to trench. They figured out another way to do it. The cost-saving measures are there. And that's what good employees do. But, it's in the overall arching picture of how efficient we operate as a government here that we're able to do these things. And we're way more efficient than we used to be, for sure.
Yep.
And my last tactical goal is recruitment initiatives, getting back on recruitment, with the fires and everything. There was several job fairs we missed. And then I'd like to do a Village of Ruidoso job fair at the convention center. It's something I've
I
wanted
think
to do
that's
for a while.
a great idea.
And I would love to have departments there to do interviews on the spot, possibly do backgrounds on the spot, drug testing on the spot. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd have it all done right there.
Well, and you had some success or potential success at the school, remember? Where we went in there and talked about college may not be for you, but we have technical schools or whatever, and you can be in a job where you can still make excellent money, you can have great benefits and retire.
Yeah, and we can work with the local schools to bus in the students, just like ENMU does, and talk to them.
The college job fairs, Cheryl, how effective are those?
Losers.
Not great. I think it gets our name out there, but
We haven't had
didn't
good
get any-
success.
we haven't gotten any.
The Workforce Solutions put on a couple, and I would go by and just check, and, our police officers were there doing recruitment. You had every business in town that was in there, and they said they might have had 15 people walk through.
It just seems like to me, and I've harped on this ever since I've been on the council, that the high schools, these entry-level positions that you can work your way up is the way to go. Even if we're only getting one or two from Ruidoso or Capitan or Honda, I think that keeps those kids here. They have their families here. So, I mean, I think that's a great idea, is to have the job fair and make sure that the high schools know about it.
We're going to do that in March. I'm just looking,
Excellent.
we're trying to set a date with Bernadine, but I think that'll be good. And if we get Carrie to start advertising it now, and it's successful, then we can do it more often. We'll see
And
how
then
the first one goes.
put it out to the schools as well. Yeah.
Have you approached community colleges? I mean, Doña County has a really good water technology
We
program.
have had some discussions with them. We're actually, we all did the PowerPoint with
Right,
the Rural Water Association, I guess is what it's called.
right.
And so we're hooked up with them, where if they have someone in the area that's getting their levels and they're in the area or willing to relocate, they'll contact us.
But
We
like
haven't-
Counselor Letterman said, hit them at the high school that first year. And then, hey, this summer you have an intern job up in Ruidoso.
Right.
And then their second year, then they come out with the level 4 water certification. And, I mean, that's what I was just thinking, because I know a couple of people that went to that and they liked that program. That was some years ago, but they thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought about them right there, looking at your list, but continue this, I mean.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And Mayor Crawford and counselors, we also been working with Ryan at the college and trying to get some of those classes here locally. They can do some of them online, but they have to proctor, do their tests, have a proctor, I think, in Alamogordo at Workforce Solutions over there. When it comes to the NMED courses for water, wastewater, sewer, so we'll continue on that also. And I know Judy's been also working on talking to ENMU also on some positions, so.
Cheryl, this is very good.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. If I can, there's two more things I want to mention, the last two bullet points. Part of the recruitment initiative, I'd like to look at the
Vacation.
it's hard to say, but yes, the paid time off policies, the vacation that we get, and I was on the committee that changed it up. And we've had a lot of feedback from employees that it's just not, it's hard, it's difficult.
6 months, you get a week.
Yeah.
After a year, you get another week.
And that's fine, but then when
But then you go from that 1 year to the next year, and you only get, if you take the 2, you get one. And so,
you get 80 at their anniversary, so they have a whole year. And I have an employee that has 2 little ones, and she just really has to strategically plan, a day here, a small family vacation here. There's an awards thing here, and and it's not just that employee, but we've had a lot of feedback that it's just difficult. They used to accrue the vacation, 4 hours of pay period. They were able to get 104 hours a year. And now there's
We
that.
allow employees to borrow PTO.
They can, Counselor Corey, they can borrow from the sick leave bank if they're if the leave is exhausted and.
Okay, but they
no,
can't take an advance.
No,
But right now, it's not PTO. We have
Right.
sick leave and we have vacation.
vacation.
The PTO, you would just lump it together. But, okay, and we know, I totally understand. I worked with women that we had to work around to make sure that their children, their families. But we also know that no matter what you do, you're going to have employees that take it all. And I was on the committee, and I keep bringing up the bank, but you could not you had to wait till you were there a year to take your vacation, because then you were accruing it every year and you would have 2 weeks. I worry if we do PTO, if we lump everything together, then would we still have, if I call in 30 minutes before work and say, I need to be gone today. PTO really gives you you don't have to have a reason. As long as I have PTO, I can do anything I want to.
Counselor Letterman, that was my concern also, because how do you track and how do you know if someone needs to provide a doctor's note? I haven't worked for anyone that does PTO. Michael Martinez said that we can still go to a PTO program if we decide to, and then it's coded sick and vacation. I don't know what the benefit is of switching from what we have today to a PTO that's coded out.
And it's still all
vacation and
dependent,
sick.
it should be, if you talk to your supervisor, that everybody can't be off on PTO. And that's a concern that I have, is everybody wants to be gone during that period.
During hunting season.
But if I call in, my worry
Gone.
isn't that Greg has called in too. Hey, that's my PTO. And I only say this because Tom's work went from sick leave and vacation to PTO. And, sometimes you're going, geez, but I've got that time. That's my time.
Well, and the flip side of that, because I've only been in PTO systems, the flip side is you're rewarded for staying healthy.
I don't understand.
Because those days that you had for sick leave that were added to your PTO, if you're not sick, it's just additional vacation days. The other concern I've got in this environment is the insistence and the effectiveness of getting doctor's notes. Fact of the matter is, if somebody's got the flu, whether or not they go to the doctor, you don't want them here.
No.
And,
But at PTO, to your point, I want vacation day. We used to have people that showed up snot running out of everything, and they were not going to take a sick day. They were not going to take
they
that.
didn't want to lose that.
They didn't want to lose it. So that was, one of the reasons we want to make sure you had sick time to identify it, to make sure people do go. Because we've had a lot that they show up and everybody starts spreading, they don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
But then they need to be here to get the paycheck. And so it's a delicate line. And then we had it where we built up so much pay time off that when people would retire, we owed them 3 months' pay or 4 months, whatever we owed her. So it was like, you have to start taking it, use it or lose it. So there's certain limitations that we're going to have to figure out on how to do it, because you got to budget it. It's always, a liability on your balance sheet that we have to maintain, that we have to pay out.
From a recruitment standpoint, I think having a system where an employee can start accruing time off from day one is critical. Otherwise, you're penalizing someone for making the move over.
And how we had it prior to the policy change was they couldn't accrue it for the first 6 months, but then we dumped into their bank what they would have accrued during that 6-month period.
Yes.
And then they started accruing
Yeah.
4 hours of pay period.
Because we have had people that don't last very long at all.
Yeah.
They told everybody, I'm not going to be here, they took just as soon as they get it, they were gone.
And I think, just because people request leave doesn't mean it's going, or vacation leave, doesn't mean it's going to always be approved. It depends on operations, and I
I bet
think
it's
that's
9% though.
I think that's a management
Even PTO?
responsibility. Well, I'm referring to vacation time.
See, PTO, they can take any time they want.
You can call 30 minutes. And say, I can't be there today.
No, you can enforce it. A manager can say that doesn't work. I mean, we did it all the time. Otherwise, you'd have half the staff gone.
Well, that's the fear, and in a public entity like this, I didn't know that we could restrict PTO.
Well, and that's the whole thing.
I'm sick.
Is bank, the private sector and municipality is totally different.
So would this be something you would engage possibly with this compensation study is an analysis of vacation and sick time?
Yes, Counselor Corey, and I would want to make sure that they could, survey the other municipalities and see what other people are doing. We can also do that ourselves. I did look at several studies, and vacation leave, or not vacation, paid time off is coming in number 2 or number 3. Number 2 sometimes ahead of insurance benefits and after pay.
Right.
Until you cut it, because right now, they've got the cream of the crop. You got $500 deductible, you got the best insurance in the state. Nobody's complaining about it. You start taking that away and saying, we're going to go to a $2,500 deductible.
And I'm just saying, that's what individuals look for when they're looking for a job, to make sure they're gonna have some paid
Well,
time off. It's
and-
very appealing.
And you understand, those priorities change.
Sure do.
They do.
You know,
As
10
we-
years ago, it was, how much are you gonna pay me? And now it's quality of life is right up there with compensation. I would discourage you getting too concerned about the cost of a study. For example, 60,000, that's a big number, but what's our total payroll, Judy? 13 million. Yeah, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, and arguably, it could cost you more if you don't do it.
Right,
So,
right.
So Cheryl, back on to the sick leave, that changed also where the new employees hired with the sick leave, in the policy, the ones that were grandfathered in, after so many years, they do, when they retire, they do also
They get paid out.
paid out, not on the new, that
Not-
was changed also.
Not on the new, they get paid out their vacation.
Yes.
On the new, they do not get paid out any sick leave.
do we accrue that, Judy?
Yes, we do.
We accrue the liability?
Say that's at the end of the audit.
Okay.
But that was a big liability.
Yep.
Because when we redid the personnel policy, we spent a lot of time on that.
We did, and I've just, since then, I've just had a lot of feedback from employees. I see employees, not necessarily employees that want to abuse it or take
Sure.
time off, just people have things, they have kids, they have grandkids, they have events, and I think that's a great benefit, to give people time off if operations allows for it.
I do agree.
The last part of that is,
But I'll just remind, last time we did that, and then we let people, the directors and all that, next thing you know, we had all the directors and senior staff that were always off. And then it caused the regular folks within the departments were getting upset. That every holiday, the director, the assistant director, the supervisors, managers were all off, but everybody else was having to work.
well, and Mayor, I think we've set an expectation, though, that managers and directors need to be available
That's
or.
part of when
or
we
be-
hire them now, is you're
Yeah.
gonna be here on the
Yeah.
big day,
We
weekends.
talk about that
Yeah.
during interviews.
So it's been a change, a morphosis over the years of how do we get it towards the most attractive? But from the things I'm hearing, the additional week on our existing system, they seem to think that that's pretty competitive with everything else we offer, rather than totally dumping it and going back to PTO or doing whatever and tracking it and all of those things.
Well, and then you got some government entities that are off on Favor Friday. They work 4/10s. State Highway Department does it. I think the county might do it.
And that's my last bullet point on here, Counselor Hooker. Just to look at what that would look like, because that's also very appealing, as long as it doesn't interrupt operations and every department is still functional and open for business, just to see what we could put together that everyone's happy with, if it can be done.
So are you talking about flex time?
No, it'd
Talking
be
about four-
40-hour,
4/10s.
I mean,
4/10s.
4/10s.
But
The
what about,
workday would be longer,
Okay.
and then they'd be off on a Friday or a Monday, and then you potentially rotate within your staff to where the front door's still open,
okay,
but
yes.
you're off this Friday, and I'm off Monday, and then it flips next time, or however that goes, and then you work from, say, 7:30 to
Who's going to keep up with
5 or whatever. I mean, it's a headache,
Yeah.
but that's,
No,
you
that,
can still keep the lights on, and you can do that also.
So that's the conclusion of mine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Great.
Okay, now it's next, the Judy Show.
Thank you.
It'll take us into lunch. You think you can do that, Judy? You got finance, utility billing, IT, and capital projects with Christie, so
All right.
thank you very much, Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a headache trying to figure that all out, but we'll get it figured out best we can.
Okay, so let me read, I think I'm gonna read all the mission statements for the finance department. So as you know, finance has a lot of sub-departments. The first mission statement for finance is, the mission of the finance department is to deliver timely and accurate financial reporting and provide oversight and support to village departments. Capital projects will establish a standardized project management approach that will provide full support to our village departments with all aspects of project management while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Our purchasing department mission is to procure the highest quality of goods and services for all village departments through the implementation of purchasing procedures that are fair, equitable, and transparent, while also providing responsive services to the village departments. Our IT department will provide timely and effective technological support to village departments. And utility billing's mission is to provide reliable billing and friendly inquiry services to assist in efficiently monitoring and managing customer water usage. So I'm going to begin my presentation with the last 4 years have been hard for us because we've had a lot of retirements and just a lot of turnover. So we were ahead 2 steps, and then we started having retirements and people leaving. So then we came back. And the cost of retraining people is very evident.
Absolutely.
And through this whole process of us getting new people, we've realized that a lot of people in our departments, one person knows what to do in that module, whether it be billing or AP or payroll, whatever the case may be. And as I look forward to my exit, I'm like, man, you know how much stuff I handle that nobody knows exactly what it goes to or what it's done. So the overall goal for me this year is to cross-train all my departments. So one of the examples is in our capital projects department, which houses our purchasing and our capital project specialist. Right now, they're in the same office, so what they're trying to do is they're cross-training and showing each other where the files are, how they save their files, where the invoices are, where this is, just so that if one's out, the other one can back up.
Yeah.
We're such a small department, but we handle so much that it's hard for one person to handle everything. So the next person that we hired, that's why I think the key for us to find either an assistant finance director or a staff accountant is very important, because right now, Robin is the one that only knows payroll. If she's constantly busy every other week with payroll, I can't show her the stuff I do on a daily basis that will keep you guys going afloat. So that's why we're trying to look for that extra body within finance to teach. We just had a transfer of Kelly Airgood from the Parks and Rec Department, who right now is shadowing our utility billing person, because she's the only one that knows the billing process and what's going on there. So he's already shadowing not only her, but also the AP clerk, so that we have more than one person knowing what to do within the finance department. So if we can find a person either to be a staff accountant and grow them into a finance director, they would take on payroll and some of the stuff I do. That way it would free up Robin to do some of the more routine stuff that I do. So
Are there, Judy, are there any opportunities for outsourcing?
sure, after May 2026, I have the perfect person for you. And that might be something we might look into. Maybe we can do an early retirement. For me, if you have somebody in an assistant finance director position, maybe you don't pay me out my vacation and sick. Maybe you keep me on the books, and that way if they need help, you can still call me back because you're paying me after all, but I wouldn't be here on a 8 to 5, Monday through Friday
Right.
situation or something. I will not leave you guys hanging. So don't worry about that.
That's recorded.
I know. So I've already said, I'm eligible in May, but I want to finish that audit out, so I technically have to stay till
May of
August.
26,
And then
though.
to
May of
December of
26.
2026. So I want to finish my audit for that fiscal year, so we'll work out something. But I think the key is that we need to get somebody in here as soon as possible, whether they have all the skills of a finance director or if it's somebody that just understands accounting. So I'm currently in talks with one gal out of Eastern here. It's not as an advanced degree I thought that she was getting. I thought she was getting an accounting degree, but it's actually a bookkeeping certificate. So I'm not sure if she'll have all the skills needed to grow into the assistant finance director, so we'll just have to see. But one of the comments I wanted to make is, when you have these positions open, you don't have a lot of applicants, and sometimes you do hire a person hoping, just because you don't get a lot of people on the hook, so you, and say, we just need a body, because the workload here is so much. And as we take on more, the FEMA projects is gonna blow my mind of how many projects we're gonna have for South Fork, and keeping track of all that, it's just amazing and mind-blowing. But we'll start into my goals for finance. Prepare a CAFR, take the annual financial report of the village and expand it to a comprehensive annual financial report. We outsourced all the statistical information. We have reviewed it. However, as in all accounting across the United States, nobody's going into accounting, so our auditor lost a couple of the key positions on our audit, so that kind of threw us back. So we weren't able to complete this comprehensive report for 2024. So hopefully 2025 will be there, but we'll just see. The next one is to develop operating manuals that can be given to departments with screenshots and an explanation on how to process tasks within Tyler Encode. We do have that, the screenshots done. What we're gonna start now in February is we're gonna have a monthly financial training, every day, the same time, the same day of each month, whether it be like a Wednesday, the second Wednesday or whatever it be. And we're gonna train a topic, purchase recs, travel, your budget, how to print reports, how to look up your general ledger and stuff. We also want to try to develop an onboarding process for not only managers, but for people that are in the office, maybe like an office manager or admin assistant. That way, when they first come on with the village, that first week, finance can sit down with them and show them our system, show them how we process budget adjustments. But that training has to be different for our department director and a manager versus somebody else, because the department director has a lot more wider scope of what he needs to look like. And a lot of times, we don't do a good job training middle management on how to look at the budget, how to run reports and stuff. So that's why we're gonna try to develop a system that says we need to show them their budget, how it works, and different things versus somebody who's putting in a purchase rec and processing invoices. So that's one of our goals too. And not only in finance and capital projects, procurement, one of the other trainings we want to have for department directors on the side is, what is an RFP? What is an IFB? What do you need to do in order to get good responsive bids or proposals and stuff? So we're trying to develop that. So that's all on the horizon. And then the other one for finance is just to get an assistant finance director here at the village and stuff. So if y'all know anyone, please send them my way. Any questions on those?
Oh, I just had one, Mr. Mayor. Judy, how user-friendly is Tyler? Because you're talking about a lot of training with a lot of folks.
Tyler's good in the sense that you can get to this pen 50,000 ways, but Tyler's bad because you can get to that pen 50,000 ways.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest system to use if you've never used a financial program. If you used financial programs in the past and you know kind of how to maneuver through there, Tyler's pretty easy. A lot of people, some of the modules don't talk to each other, so one module like utility billing can feed the GL, but if you have any transaction or corrections on the GL, it doesn't feed back to utility billing. So in that sense, they don't necessarily talk to each other. A lot of times Tyler goes out into the marketplace and sees a software company that does something real good, and then they try to program it to fit into their system, and it might not be a true exchange of information both ways. So then you tend to do a lot of adjustments to the GL because the modules don't talk to each other.
So the challenge is that it is augmentation, but not integration.
Yes, integration is not always there.
Are we
Some-
leveraging Tyler to its fullest capability?
On the payroll side, I would say no, because the way Tyler was implemented on the payroll side was to mimic what they already knew in the AS400. So they didn't say, show me what your software can do. They said, make your software look like what I'm used to. So a lot of times, if you ask somebody how to input time, which is one of our training that's coming on, is just how to enter time. You know, in a system, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to put 8 to 5, and if you worked another day, 8 to 7, it should automatically calculate overtime, not us. If you have a holiday or a vacation day within that week, and then you worked overtime, it's not overtime, it's non-para hours. You know, the guy in the field's not gonna remember all that. He just knows he worked 8 to 7 and he took off Thursday.
That's true.
Our system on the payroll side is not the best. The other question is, do we want to look at software? And I think at some point we're going to have to, because everybody's buying software systems to do something.
Yeah, they're not integrated.
They're not integrated. So community development is doing CityWorks. So they're getting planning and zoning. They're doing all the fees for that, but it's not going to talk to Tyler. So we're going to have to do journal entries or something to get the information from planning and zoning. When you look up a customer, you're going to have to go to two different systems. Is that customer coming up for a utility bill, or is he going to look for a planning and zoning fee? Oh, it's a planning and zoning fee. I have to go to this software. So at some point, I think as the village grows, you're going to have to look at a comprehensive system. Just for Parks and Rec too, they have Civic Rec and we have Clover, just to run the credit card systems.
My question on leveraging, I know I brought in the company that was handling our accounting, and they came out for a week and looked at how we were using the system versus what the system could actually provide. Does Tyler offer that type of service?
So they used to, pre-COVID, you could get a trainer out here and they would come and sit with you and you would show them this is how we do our work and stuff. Now their training is webinar, more or less, or you look at these canned videos and trainings to see what the system does. A lot of the times, because the system, the way it was set up was to mimic the old system, a lot of times when you call Tyler and say, I need to post an adjustment to a utility account, they'll tell you how Tyler should work, but within our system, it doesn't work that way. It throws something else off. But, you know, we were already so far invested in the program to start over.
Did you want a Thursday or a Friday?
Hey, Anthony, we can hear you.
And,
Works for me.
Mayor Crawford, Councilor Corey, I've worked on Tyler Encode for over 20 years. And when Judy was hired here, she went through that system. There were some implementation issues that happened also. You know, when you go from one software to the other and just having to work on that and just continue, it seems like there's always something, and version 10 is what we use, and it's just the payroll process is so, it's just so heavy, so cumbersome, and it's, you know, compared to the earlier versions, but that's what they went to. And, I mean, it's a lot.
Well, Judy raises an interesting point. I can imagine we've got a lot of silos now that you're kind of losing control.
So, so that's what we're doing, is somebody has to post the transactions from all these softwares. So you're just to keep up with the day-to-day is almost, with all the different softwares, is almost a job in itself.
So a program, Alex, it may be very effective for what he's looking for, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not very effective.
I know Mike was talking about at some point bringing in, what was the company, is it Gov? OpenGov is what they were talking about, maybe looking at, because it does have the planning and zoning, it has
Yes, it's
it has
one.
a GL system and different things like that, so.
Or is there a comprehensive program besides the OpenGov, one that would do everything you said?
I think Albuquerque uses PeopleSoft or something like that. I'm sure there's companies you would just have to, I think the thing we need to know is, what do we want the system to do for us? And a lot of times, we don't always know that.
Well, you wanted to talk to one another.
Yeah, you want to talk to one another. Do you want it to
Eliminate
handle-
all the journal entries.
Yeah. And, you know, what do we need to bring into that system? Like, does short-term rentals have to be pulled into that system? Because we're going
And they
to.
don't have, and the comprehensive one doesn't have the expertise that
Right.
that short-term rentals has to get all the information.
Yeah.
And Mayor Crawford and members of the council, just like with our water meters and our software, that had to merge also with our Tyler software, also the Ion Water, that's all together. And they're very specific on what software companies they allowed to merge with Tyler. So a lot of times if Parks and Rec and others, they won't allow it. Even the court system doesn't allow it to read right into the Tyler software, because they're very strict on their copyrights and things like that, so.
Okay.
Alrighty, so those were the goals for finance. The next one is utility billing. We are currently in process of developing a policy and process of addressing delinquent accounts and then processing of applying liens. I know Dusty and the village clerk have worked on that, and we have yet to bring it back to council.
How significant are the delinquencies? Are we talking tens of thousands of dollars?
Haven't ran it in a while, but it was a little bit over.
Okay.
And what we
Alex,
found out-
I'll have the same question about lodger's tax. The delinquencies.
You know, we found out that a lien is only good for 3 years,
Unless we,
unless you foreclose on it.
yeah, we got,
So-
that, and we do now foreclose on them all.
So they're going through that.
Have we seen an increase in delinquencies after the new rates went into effect?
No, but you have your repeat offenders all the time. But overall, I don't think we've had a big increase in liens. It's kind of the same amount and stuff, so.
Are we shutting off utilities?
In your manager's report, there's a section in utility billing that gives the statistics for the prior month, and it's lien letters, shut-offs,
Okay.
service orders, pay plans, and different things like that, so. We had started the one shop within the the front desk of utility billing. We wanted if you were gonna come and pay a planning and zoning fee or a water bill, you were gonna have one stop. We weren't gonna have to say, well, you can pay your utility bill here and then you have to go down over there to go pay your water tap or whatever. So we had started the process with CityWorks, but a couple of months ago, we found out that we weren't sure if we're gonna keep CityWorks. So that kind of stopped because I'm not exactly sure. I don't think the work order system within CityWorks is doing what we need with the guys in the field. So that's when the talk of OpenGov came on board. So right now, I think management's going to sit down and try to make a decision whether we're going to go through and finish the implementation with CityWorks or if we're going to drop that and go a different route.
Mayor and council on CityWorks, I'll give an example. Adam just going to say a water meter a leak and taking pictures, writing up a report. It's not user friendly. He wasn't able to prepare the report, get it out. So he's having to do a lot of stuff manually and use there's a survey software that Ashley has and been in using that. So right now, just other ones, I think Dick also and other departments had some issues with the.
And we're reaching out to those software companies to find out why.
We do, and Jenny and also and Yvonne work on their liquor licenses. And it is another software that's, now they're charging you anytime you call back and ask them for help on it. But I wasn't never too thrilled about it. But we went that route at the time. This has been now for what, 5 years? 5 or 6 years we've had it, and we need something that everyone's going to be able to utilize and not just have a software paying for. It's on your tablet and not use it. So we need something we're going to be able to use and utilize.
Okay.
And one of the other things that we're currently doing in utility billing is we're actually exploring moving from 4 billing cycles to 2 so that your bill is going to be due the same day of the same
I
month.
thought we'd already worked on that. We never did conclude that. I thought we'd already approved to move forward.
We're moving forward, but I'm double checking with Encode. I want to run parallel systems because I don't want them to tell us, yeah, it's going to work. And then we get right in the middle of billing and it's not working. So I am very apprehensive with Encode to make sure that when we do pull the switch that it actually works, because I know for the first date, that first bill is going to be more than 30 days because of the way your billing cycle currently goes. But I want to make sure that it's only 1 cycle and not 4, because I want to know, are we going to bring them all back to a 30-day bill or what? Because I'll have to assess that cost and stuff. So we're still going through and looking at what that switch will take. So as soon as we can get that,
Headache, big one.
Yes.
it is going to be a headache. And it's good, in the end, it'll be helpful for everybody, but getting there is going to be the problem. So. And that's utility billing. And then for IT, we're gonna get this was a project that started, before was to get the fiber from the main line to the homes. So now the target completion date of Windstream is August of 2025, so that'll be done. The next one is, the evaluation of the phone system. We wanna change the phone system because it's not the easiest phone system. So I know we've already gone through and we've identified that Windstream, we're gonna go with their phone system. So now we have to figure out how many phone lines we need. Do you want their extension to be the last 4 digits of the line? We're exploring all that, how the phones are supposed to answer for each department. So that's being
And that's always big deal because remember, we switched last time and then people were leaving messages that were going to unanswered. Employees couldn't even go get the answer, retrieve the messages. We
Right.
didn't know we were getting them. So that is something that needs to be thought through completely.
Oh, yes, and Mayor and Council, just, Windstream, we know who to contact, ShoreTel, the company we're currently using, if you need to get anything done after hours, weekends or whatnot, you can never get a hold of them, and we'll make sure that Windstream is available, and we know who to call and make sure that happens, so we'll continue that.
We're still using Systems MD.
Yes, sir.
Are they in charge of systems security?
Yes.
Okay, and we feel comfortable with what they're doing?
Yes.
You hesitated.
You're asking a non-IT person if they're successful? I should say that, like, in a week, in a payroll week, I would get 5 emails from Ron, the mayor, random people that says, oh, Judy, I closed down my deposit account, please tell me, send me your account number so I can change it and stuff.
The mayor had that
I only get one now, maybe one a month, so.
They go in and capture them, but it's random phishing that they send, and then we report it back to them. I got one yesterday before the radio show from the fire chief
Kate.
asking me that very same thing. And you can tell the way they're written that they're not an American. And then you send it to them, and they lock that down, and they try to trace it, so they do good.
Robin, is Systems MD doing any work on social engineering, or they?
Social, Counselor Corey, I'm sorry, what,
Well,
as example?
Ron may remember years ago when we first hired them, they did an audit where they attempted to get into the system as an outsider, and I think they even sent people.
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
We
that
also,
was-
different
that
we also
was-
had
that
New
was
Mexico Tech
Socorro-
came
That
to.
was New Mexico Tech.
Okay, have we followed up with that?
I can, Counselor Corey and Mayor and Council, I can certainly ask them to attempt that again. But they are actually the security and the processes that they run on a daily and weekly basis are extensive.
Good.
In fact, we determined we had a line break because of construction done on the playground next to the community center. And we were actually running on wireless backup at the community center for several weeks that was not picked up by Windstream, but was actually picked up by Systems MD. And we put in the work order to Windstream to get the repair done. And so that was picked up by Systems MD. We've determined some other issues since we've switched over to the fiber of why we're having some slow connections. And part of it is when some of our systems were set up 12 years ago on our new phone system, everybody plugged into the back of their phone and then ran their computer connection from the back of the phone into their computer. Those telephones are under 100 meg connection or less, and so it's really slow connecting to the computer. Well, it's because you're going through a less than 100 meg connection on your telephone. But we have, in the upgrade here at Village Hall and other locations, we have enough connections that if you'll plug directly into the wall, you'll be connecting much faster because we have gig speeds everywhere.
I notice, like, the laptop I've
Yes.
got has a
Port,
for
wired connection or for wireless.
or the jump drive.
Yes.
And again, I'm speaking as an ex-banker. We disabled in all of our devices the ability to put a jump drive in because viruses were getting transmitted.
So we haven't done this in a long time, and we need to do that again. We don't disable the jump drives on those computers because we have so many people who come in sometimes with different presentations or things such as that.
Sure.
But we did New Mexico Tech when they came through to attempt to see if they could get into people's computers. They were like, well, you ought to at least ask for my identification before you allow me to put a jump drive into your computer. You ought to at least check this. Systems MD, if you get an attachment on your email that you're not sure what it is, you may forward the email to them. They'll tell you if it's has anything in it before. And actually, they'll capture those if they can tell there's a virus in it. But if you're unsure and it comes to you from a trusted sender, they will scan the attachment and send it back to you saying, no, this is okay, you may open it and everything is good. And so what they do and being able to reach them basically 24/7 is been incredible. I've been through both emergencies that we've worked with, the McBride fire and the South Fork and Salt fires. I was basically on the phone with them almost 24/7 at any time when we were having issues.
So, you know, my experience has been the two things that kept me awake at night professionally in my organization was management succession and vulnerability to data breaches.
That's exactly right.
And, you know, for example, here in the village, I mean, you read about municipalities where their water system gets hacked and, you know, from a proactive standpoint, are we doing anything to?
From a proactive standpoint, we are backed up on-site. We are backed up off-site right now at 2 different locations for the majority, 99% of all of our data. We almost lost a significant amount of data in the McBride fire, but we stopped because we almost crashed the servers. And it was that difficult, and so.
And Robin, what about outside access?
Outside access, there's no outside access.
Unless you share it to your computer like with Systems MD.
Well, if you have to have access through Systems MD
Right.
to get to our data. You have to have a special link to get in.
So they have firewalls in place?
They have firewalls and two-factor authentication.
Okay.
And now with the upgrades that we have done from some of the projects we've completed, all of the managers and anybody who logs in, you either have to have a text message or a two-factor authentication program on your phone to be able to access even your email.
Okay, and anyone working remotely, is there a two-factor
Yes.
process? Okay, great. Good,
So-
thank you.
And
I
then
can-
like with the water system, you know, we've got that all, it's set up on encrypted stuff that they can do from their phone, because that was one of the main things that we went through with New Mexico Tech, was to see how they could control our water system pumps, stuff like that.
Right, and that's part of what we do with our tablets and our cell phones and everything. They're all logged in with Verizon, and we have a special program with them. And also with what we've also, for redundancy purposes, started some of our cell phones with T-Mobile, so that we can.
As a backup.
As a backup, because we found sometimes when Verizon's down, T-Mobile is up. So we are trying to get at least one cell phone in every department that is on T-Mobile.
Thank you.
So some of the projects that we've completed this year is we moved everybody to Microsoft 365 for the village, and that was purchased with the McBride legislative appropriation. And then we also have done our server replacement. That was done. The next goal is the expiration of support of Windows 10. I know Systems MD has already identified which computers need to be upgraded and can be moved to Windows 11. So depending on the number of computers and whether or not they're critical to the department, they'll be put on a list of priority. If we have other computers from other departments that can be transitioned and moved around, then we'll do that too. One of the things that IT wants to do is do a long-term capital replacement calendar. We haven't been doing that very often, and that's why we spent a lot of money on the servers, because they were at the end of not only their warranty, but their extended warranty, and we had to do all three at one time. If we could put them on a calendar, maybe we can do one every few years so that it's not such a big hit to the budget, in addition to any PCs within the department also. And then the last goal would be the phone redundancy. I believe sometimes we're down, so we want to look for other ways to keep our phones up and running.
we're talking with all of our partners. Windstream is in talks, and Godfrey and Jody from Mahdi has been the leader of all of this, of working on a ring around the mountain that will have access to go out towards Las Cruces, Albuquerque, or Roswell in the event of an emergency, because basically when one of them are down, they're all affected. And so the way we got out through when the South Fork fire occurred was because we had fiber in place. Had we not had that, we would have still been down for weeks. Because we had our fiber in place, we were able to make a connection to Mahdi, and that brought everything up. And then we were able to get all of our systems up and running. So getting those connections and being able to get those partners together, the only thing that may be required would be support from us if there's anything in the legislatively or with the federal government in order to make those things a reality, to say that the council supports any of those initiatives. So, and then working with Verizon and T-Mobile in case, the mayor talked about cows coming into town in the event of emergencies and things such as that. If we ever able to purchase our own, that we would have here on site to help provide cell phone communications when those cell phone towers go down, because they're connected to the fiber also. That's something that will benefit the community, so.
We've come a long way. I remember, God, it's been less than 10 years ago, our server room was in the basement at the annex.
Yep.
God forbid if there was a flood, we would have been totally.
There were
wiped out.
floods.
Yeah.
There was leakage.
Yeah, and we're gonna be moving our server room over to Horton so that it'll be in a much better situation. And along with the redundancy, we've also set it up so that we'll be able to plug in Starlink into any of our locations so that we can get service in that method if needed also.
The other thing, when you talk about moving that server to Horton, you gotta be careful that it doesn't go into dispatch, because they're not supposed to have anything in there other
It'll
than,
be at the very other end of we've already got a server room at the very other end of the building,
good.
Where are the servers currently?
upstairs.
Upstairs here, in Andrew's office. It's like, you put your kids in bunk beds and stuff when they're, he's still okay with it for now.
He's in the bunk bed.
It's his port.
Yeah, it's like he's for it right now, but I expect him to grow out of it soon, so,
He's ready for the move.
yeah.
We are working with his systems MD so that they can give us some trainings and certifications that Andrew can take to keep him incentivized to stay here with us and grow him eventually to, I don't know if he can replace, but take on more responsibility within the last year and a half.
Yeah.
I would say he's taken on a lot of responsibility that systems MD used to have to send somebody to do here.
Yep.
Now he's he's on the ground doing a lot of that stuff, so they really enjoy Andrew. So if we can groom him and incentivize him to stay, it would be to our benefit.
Yeah, it would.
You'll always have a company like Systems ND backing up, it's just so technical. And those people that can really do all of that, they don't make that many of them. They're hard to get.
Yeah.
And they're big money, big money.
So, and he's working really hard, and we're trying to grow him so that I can try and step out a little more from here, help Judy a little more there, but it's a whole lot of moving parts.
And plus, he's still slim enough to get under the desk.
Yeah.
And young
Stuff in,
enough,
that was,
Young enough.
and young enough to get under the
yeah,
desk.
and for me too, crawling around and getting back up, it's like, I'll just call Andrew, see if he can do it.
The last department is capital projects, and we've talked about some of the goals, cross-training, the purchasing agent and capital projects. Christy is pretty new to procurement, and she's been doing a good job. I think one of the other things we have to do on a goal for them is to get additional training for procurement and contracts, because the more you know is better overall.
Oh, yeah.
And the more people that know, when you get them all together in a room, I think you come out with a better output. So the more people that can understand procurement or capital projects management, the better we'll be in the end. And then again, just to hire the vacant capital project manager position.
When we review RFPs, do we have outsiders participate in that process? I know years ago we used to.
No, we usually keep it in-house, and we tend to leave the village manager and deputy manager out because if there's ever a protest or anything, that
Is that why
position.
the council's left out of that process? 'Cause
Yes.
Yes.
I know years ago, the council sat in on some of those bids, but, wow, that makes sense.
And we go through the full process. It's all secure and confidential and stuff, so we do a lot of procurements within the year, so. Any other questions?
Great job.
Yeah, we do a lot with a
Thanks.
few
Appreciate it.
positions, so.
Judy, thank you for all you do every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And your
No.
team.
Yeah, all your wonderful people.
And they're always happy to help everybody out, so that's always nice.
Yeah.
When there's a
That is
friendly
good.
face.
That is good.
Are we
Well,
gonna
like
get
the
to
mayor
break?
said, that after Judy, we're having lunch, so
Go.
he already took off to get the best sandwich.
How's that old work come along?